Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Tuesday. It is the Tuesday tune-up, and we got to get tuned up on a few things. Barcelona with new drama that we'll get into to kick things off. We've got Champions League today. Jarrett Smith joins us for the beginning of the show, and he has some picks to make to be part of our Picks of the Week that happens on Monday nights. Jarrett missed it, so he's going to get his picks made before he leaves us this morning. Where did Jarrett finish last week, by the way, John?
Jarrett did not finish last, sir.
Oh, you did?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, my bad.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah, it's like a first tier and a second tier. It's like the first division is Nick and I, and the second division is John and Jarrett. Yeah.
Accurate.
Well, we'll see if that changes this week. How are you doing, Jarrett?
I'm doing a lot better now that I know I didn't finish dead last.
Oh, well, there you go. See, it's good times.
I was convinced that I was going to be finishing so low in a league so low where we don't relegate out of this league because then you have to disband.
Yeah. We thought that might be happening, but you're going to be okay. You get to survive into another week. We'll get your picks here in a minute. I did not expect new ridiculous drama out of Barcelona this morning, but we've got it. I still do not know why John does an interpretive dance to this like he's at a Grateful Dead concert. But anyway, Joan Laporta is not doing any interpretive dances unless he's trying to find cash. And he's got to find cash. There's a little bit of misunderstanding here. When you become president of Barcelona, you have to put up a guarantee of 15% of the budget. You have to basically say you're good for that. If everything crashes, you're good for 15% of the budget. He and the new board, who have to do that to officially, I guess, take office, have not done that. They still need to find 70 million euro in this guarantee. Deadline's tomorrow. If they, and Gwen's been studying up on this in the Barcelona bylaws, if they do not present that guarantee of 15% of the budget, then he is not the president, and the whole electoral process starts all over again. Yeah, it's bad. They have somebody they've been trying to get, I guess, to put up this guarantee. It's somewhat complicated because of one's a for-profit business, one's a membership. That part I'm not 100% up on. There is a newspaper in Spain, Ara, who is saying that Plan B is an investment fund, HPS Partners, which would in return charge a commission of more than 5% to put up this money. Yeah, it's a problem. And AS has an article now that has come out. This has all really started to hit in the last couple hours. The league has to get the documentation and the confirm of a guarantee of 124.6 million euro. That's 15% of the budget. That comes from the board, and Laporta would be the president of that board. If they can't do that, a management board takes the club over again, and there is a new election process. It's a huge issue now because these people were elected and they don't have the money to get it done. Now, one thing that I didn't really know exactly what it meant when this happened. Sunday, Jaime Hero, who was one of the members involved in the economic side of the club, resigned. And it kind of came out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, well, maybe Laporta's bringing in his own people, whatever. He's resigned, and that, I guess, has made this even more complicated. Laporta has been looking for executives and capitalists to cover a guarantee that would be executed by the bank Sabadell. the members of the board would cover 50 million of this guarantee. That's more than 70 million euro that's missing. Laporta contacted North American investment fund HPS Partners to cover the whole. That was ruled out. Audax, which is a renewable energy company chaired by Jose Elias, he can't be a director, and this is where it got a little complicated. He doesn't meet the conditions to be a director of the club, so he can't be on the board to be part of this guarantee. He doesn't have seniority as a partner at Audax. Yeah. They're trying to put forward his right-hand man, Eduard Romeo, who would be able to join the board and would be the strong man in the economic field who would be able to put up this money to guarantee it. It hasn't been done yet, and the negotiations have been back and forth. I think Laporta was expecting to be able to wrap this up last night. It hasn't happened. Here's the translated line from AS. Last night they broke, and this noon, according to Mundo Deportivo, they have run amok. The whole negotiations have run amok, and there is a race against the clock to avoid a new election. Yay, Barcelona. Good job, guys.
El Periodico has a quote from Elias, and Elias is quoted as saying, and this is through Google Translate, Audax cannot put money in Barca as it is a listed company. It is totally impossible, he comments to this newspaper. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense, Elias continues. It doesn't make sense for me to put my money into a project that I don't control or participate in. I can help at the management or knowledge level, and then to your previous point, but materially, I cannot join the Barca board because I do not have the necessary seniority, end quote.
Yeah. So Barcelona and Joan Laporta, the newly elected president, are in trouble again. He's got to find basically 70 million euro of a guarantee of 15% of the budget. It's got to get league approval. It's got to get, I guess, because I don't think it's actually like putting the cash in at the moment. It's a guarantee of the budget. So it's like a letter of credit, essentially, is my understanding of it. They've got to show all the necessary documentation to do that. And they've got to do it by tomorrow, or he can't be president. And then the board can't be the board. And then you have to start the whole thing over again. Good times, Barcelona. Good times. You always keep us on our toes.
You ain't kidding, brother.
I mean, Jarrett, there's not really anything to add here to the analysis because we're trying to figure out, what all of this actually means. They had a 10-day deadline to present a guarantee of this 15% of the budget. It's been a formality. Nobody even really expected it to come up. Of course, in 2021, for Barcelona and the mess that they're in, this issue comes up.
Of course it does. Was this something that they thought was going to be fine, and then something just kind of like, it's like, I will be fine. Oh God, we're not going to be fine. Something fell through, or man, we just didn't know how to do math or something. But man, it's like Barcelona's doing well in the league. Barcelona got knocked out in Champions League, but they put up a hell of a fight against PSG. I mean, the first leg notwithstanding, but the second leg was actually a lot of fun. A couple opportunities away from a potentially huge comeback. The former president, who seems to have angered everyone, including your legendary player, is gone and will not be coming back. Your legendary player might be staying. Everything's been coming up Millhouse for Barcelona, and now this is just.
Yeah, it was looking good, and then you get that announcement on Sunday that Jaime Hiro is stepping away. He was going to be the vice president, the financial vice president. He was a big part of Laporta's campaign, and he announces on Sunday, I'm not going to be able to be on the board. I've got work commitments in London. I don't have the time. That was a little bit of a red flag, and now it's looking like he knew what was coming and got off the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the only way this could be worse is if Bartimeo somehow popped his head out of the ground like Bugs Bunny and said, I'll run again.
Oh, boy.
I got this. This could get worse.
They have until Wednesday evening to raise this money that is needed. They have been talking to, in addition to HPS Partners and Banc de Sabadell in the Catalonia region, they've been talking to JB Capital Markets, another U.S. fund, to try to put this money together. The Athletic understands that the club were expecting Laporta to be officially invested as president on Wednesday afternoon. However, they were, quote, still awaiting confirmation from the candidacy that everything was in order. And they have not done that as of yet. They do have, I guess, a little over 24 hours to find 70 million euro. Good luck, I guess.
Yeah. Tafka says Laporta and Messi are tight, right? I'm sure Messi's got a spare 70 mil.
Well, I don't know the regulations and the bylaws if that can be done or how that works or what.
Player president?
Well, he'd have to go to the board. Somebody would have to go to the board. I don't know if his dad could go to the board. That's the stuff like without knowing Barcelona's bylaws and what can be done because of that seniority thing about being on the board or being part of whatever to guarantee whatever. It's really complicated. I don't know exactly how they do this. I mean, if they're talking to like capital funds, I mean, you're going to go into debt more. Yeah. Which I guess when you're already this much into debt, what does it really matter, right?
Right.
You feel like, what's
yes, the iHeartMedia approach. This is fun.
Sure. I mean, that's where Barcelona is, right? Just, keep going. We're too big. We'll be okay. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
What's another couple logs on that fire?
We'll win the Champions League here at some point. We'll make money back. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's a mess. So we will keep you posted. But, yeah, this could really change the narrative of what's going on in Barcelona and what happens. I mean, this affects Lionel Messi and sticking around. If it's more crisis after crisis after crisis, see ya. He's not going to want to necessarily be part of that. Looked like everything was heading towards him staying. Sergio Aguero, I think, would be coming if Messi stays. If he doesn't stay, then he's not coming. And what has been a good year on the field for Barcelona, even with going out in the Champions League where they did, they're 4 points off the lead. They absolutely have a shot at winning La Liga. They're in the Copa del Rey final. It's not bad. I think maybe the scale has changed. It's maybe a bad year in terms of what Barcelona used to be, but in reality, this year of what they've had to deal with, it's a pretty good year, and they could still win 2 trophies. But they might not have a president after Wednesday who they thought was going to be the president who can't fulfill the terms of the presidency and maybe should have had all that lined up before he ran for president. But welcome to Barcelona. Yay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, you went from everything's great to potentially, we might win 2 trophies and we'll get a new president. Now, you might not have the president. You might not win those trophies. And the guy you let go for free very likely could lead one of your rivals to all sorts of multiple trophy glory.
There's that.
Happy Tuesday!
Yeah. Well, at least he is not in Croatia.
God.
This has been picked up now by the English-speaking media. Zoran Mamic, who, yes, had to resign as the leader of Dinamo Zagreb, the manager, getting ready for a game on Thursday against Tottenham. Had to resign because he's going to jail. 4 years and 8 months in prison, sentenced by the Supreme Court of Croatia. His brother, the former Croatian Football Federation vice president, who fled to Bosnia-Herzegovina on the eve of sentencing in 2018. This is an old case. His 6.5-year prison sentence was confirmed by the Supreme Court on Monday as well. Former club director and a tax inspector were also confirmed with jail terms. All of them were charged with embezzling 116 million kuna, 13 million pounds, from Dinamo by siphoning off money from transfer fees and tax evasion worth a little over 1 million pounds. Luka Modric had been caught up in the case at one point before the court dropped a charge of perjury against him in October of 2018. Modric went to Tottenham from Dinamo Zagreb, so the circle of life continues with Tottenham playing Dinamo Zagreb this week.
Yes.
Both of his roles, because he was the manager, he was the sporting director. He was the manager and sporting director at a club that he was being charged with embezzling money from, which makes total sense. those roles are going to be taken over by Damir Kurznar. So I guess if you're Barcelona, you look at that and you say, well, it's not as bad as we thought it could be.
We could be Dinamo Zagreb.
Sure. Laporta is not going to jail. Oh, wait, our last president did go to jail. So maybe it is as bad as it could be. Yay. This is crazy. These are the stories that are big this morning around the world. It's nuts. The rest of the show, we've got MLS preview stuff. We're going to dig into some updates out of D.C., bad news for them and their back line. Good news potentially in the stands. Good news in Toronto potentially in the stands and maybe getting that team back into Toronto. Things are heading in the right direction there. We also have Machop Chol joining us. We had a chance to talk to Machop yesterday. We've got that interview for you at 11 o'clock. We have Champions League today as well. And this kind of gets us to Jarrett's picks of the week. Because, Jarrett, you finished third last week. I think you've had a last-place finish in this. I think you've had a decent finish.
Third-place finish either.
No, it wasn't. It was distant.
It's not like you finished third and you finished, closer to first than to last. No, it was bad.
It was
distant.
Yeah. I was awful, and Jarrett was a little less than awful.
This isn't like you finished third in your Champions League group with 9 points, and you just happened to be an amazing group. No, this was you finished third with 2 points, only because you managed 2 draws that made no sense, and the other team was like, I don't know, possibly had their president and coach go to jail, sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, it was just 1. You got 1 right out of 6 last week.
Yeah. Okay.
John,
I'd have had 2 right if the ball had bounced correctly in Argentina.
You always have to take into account Diego Maradona's effects on games, even when he is no longer with us. You always have to be ready for that.
Absolutely true.
It's just part of the game in Argentina. If you didn't
I'm just imagining like sending Bankman and the rest of the Ghostbusters down to try and wrangle the ghost of Maradona, and just how horribly that would go for everyone.
They'd get slimed so quickly.
No, I think that's a welcome ghost.
Yeah.
All right, John, give him the game so Jarrett can make his picks. It starts today with Champions League.
Real and Atalanta. Real at time of selection yesterday was a plus 110. Your draw's a plus 280. Atalanta a plus 235. I have Real, Jason, and Nick have the draw.
I'll take the draw on that. Especially after Real was in a knife fight this weekend.
And those odds have shifted this morning. Real's up to plus 127. Atalanta's down to plus 204. Tomorrow, Chelsea and Atleti. Chelsea.
I don't need to hear the numbers. I'm taking Atleti straight up. It's okay.
Wow.
Because I've been on the train that Atleti, leads. It goes to the promised land here. Until they don't, that's where I'm at. I'm going to die on that hill.
Okay.
I'm probably going to die tomorrow on that hill.
Europa League on Thursday. We have decided to go with Manchester United, AC Milan. Manchester United, plus 117. AC Milan is a plus 240, and your draw is a plus 244.
Manchester.
Okay, you would be the only one there as well. Just Jason and I have the draw. Nick has Milan.
There's a lot of diversity in these picks this week.
Yeah.
A lot more than usual.
I'm not going to tell Ole he's going to get this wrong. So.
I think they get through. I think
Ole had trust.
I think it's a draw and it goes to extra time. And I think Manchester United goes through, but yeah, I think he's got to suffer for it.
Friday, Fulham and Leeds in the Premier League, and an abbreviated Premier League schedule. Fulham plus 150. Your draw's a plus 246. Leeds a plus 188. Jason and I have the draw. Nick has Leeds.
I hate betting on Leeds. They're just so damn hard to predict. I'll take Fulham.
Saturday. And this is where we got to kind of pick games. I picked the Friday game. Jason was shocked.
I was blown away that when I'm like, John, pick a game for Friday. England!
Yes.
Yeah, I nearly lost it. I made a noise that I didn't
nearly, you did lose it.
Oh, I know. I totally lost it. I channeled the Rock in talking to Jonathan Coachman on Raw back about 15 years ago.
Absolutely. It was another Rock Coachman or Stone Cold Coachman moment. So Jason on Saturday went to the Bundesliga. And in the middle of his Rock Coachman promo, he decides he's going to pick Schalke and Borussia Mönchengladbach.
It's a tricky game. Mönchengladbach is trying to get their manager to leave town early, it seems like, and Schalke is just terrible.
Schalke at a plus 597, your draw at a plus 351, Borussia Mönchengladbach at a minus 208.
See, I'm going to take Schalke here just because if it pays out, then I'm going to possibly finish second in the group.
There's the strategy. I like your thinking now. I like it.
Yep. And then on Sunday, Nick chose the game, and it is in Serie A. It is Roma and Napoli. Roma, plus 159. Your draw is a plus 247, and Napoli, a plus 174. Nick and I picked Roma. Jason picked Napoli.
I'll take the draw.
There you go. See?
Can't believe you didn't take the Old Firm and all of its stupidity.
Yeah, you weren't there. You weren't there, and Nick got to pick. And
there's also a chance the game doesn't get played.
There's also that, and then nobody wins. So yeah, I mean, we had a Champions League game.
Win if that game doesn't get played.
Yeah, nobody gets. You just get your money back. We had Champions League Tuesday, Champions League Wednesday, Europa League Thursday, and then John picked Friday, I picked Saturday, and Nick picked Sunday because I was being called out for picking all the games. So okay. That's how it went. Fair. Yeah, you win 3 of 5, and people try to find reasons. Just
all of these sound fine. I'm excited. I like this plan. I'm excited about this plan.
We will see where it goes. Let's talk about the other Champions League game today. There's not a whole lot to dig into here. It's City and Mönchengladbach, and again, Mönchengladbach is seemingly actively trying to get Marco Rose to leave town, like now. After he announced he's going to Dortmund next year, they have went into the tank. I don't think anything changes today. They are playing. Is it in Manchester, or did it get moved?
I believe it is, but I'm checking.
Yeah, I've got it in Manchester. I thought it had been moved
Europe because that would be better.
Yeah, I thought it had been moved. I don't think it really matters for Gladbach right now. I don't think they want to play for Marco Rose because he said he's leaving. It's a problem. So, I mean, I think this is easy for City, right? Are we overthinking it to try to find something in it?
No, it's in Budapest.
It is in Budapest. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Even then, I mean, that's not far enough to the east for me to get black helicopters out, if we're being honest. But, yeah, if it was anyone other than City or Bayern, I think you're like, maybe we can find something in here. I don't know if you can find something in here when you combine the fact that Pep is just going to oil this machine to lethal efficiency with the fact that Mönchengladbach is a mess. You're overthinking it, I think, if you get weird with it.
Yeah, 2-0 lead. I think it's pretty simple. I'll be curious to see what kind of lineup Pep puts out, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, Atalanta. Refresh us on what everybody picked here, John.
Okay, Real and Atalanta. I have Real. Everybody else has the draw. That was an easy one.
Okay. I think, Jared, are you draw, so you're picking Real Madrid to go through. Everybody thinks Madrid's going to go through here. Madrid is missing Eden Hazard. They've been used to that. There was an incident this morning that was somewhat entertaining. On their website, or their Twitter account website, announced that Rodrigo, young Brazilian forward, has been playing well, that he had been added to the injury list. And it was really kind of vague. It said, following tests carried out on our player Rodrigo by the Real Madrid Medical Services, he's been diagnosed with a muscular injury in the right thigh. So the news, of course, spread really quickly. And then the article was removed from the website about 30 minutes after it was published. It was the work of a hacker. Now, the question in AS was, if you're going to hack an elite football club, is that really the best joke you can come up with? I'm assuming they were trying to get the betting lines to move.
Yeah.
And take advantage of that. That would seem to be a very calculated hacking.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't sit there and go over the top with a player selection. You don't, because you want it to be in that realm of believability.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of sitting there and you're going, okay, all right. It's not something where Luka Modric broke his leg walking down a flight of stairs. Nothing like, something like that.
Sergio Ramos was hit by a falling piano. I mean, you're not going to go too crazy with it.
No. So going in there with Rodrigo, it's kind of sitting there. You're right there in that region where you can, okay, yeah, I might be able to see that. But yeah, I could definitely see that as something where you're trying to move the juice boxes one way or the other.
That's what it feels like to me. I don't think it'll be easy here. And with three of us going draw on it, I think that's pretty consistent. Domer, we'll get deeper into Atleti and Chelsea. We'll get deeper into that tomorrow. That's tomorrow. And I don't have a kiss of death. That's just me.
That's me.
Yeah, I got 3 out of 6 last week. Come on now. Real Madrid, Atalanta, I think they're going to have to sweat for it. I mean, we saw it on the weekend where they had to sweat for that win. They've got the away goal, which is going to end up being critical. And I just don't know if Atalanta can turn this one.
Yeah. That's it for me. I just don't know if Atalanta can get what they need out of this. So I'm looking at it as more of Real taking care of business in leg one and just making sure that everything it's managed well. You get in, you get out, and I just think that Real gets there and they get in and they get out.
Yes, they get in and get out.
They get in, they get out. Nothing. It's not going to be the fanciest thing in the world. It's like you got what you got in the first leg. You just take care of business. You do it, and you get through and go to the next round.
I mean, you're looking at Zapata and Muriel to get this done for Atalanta. They're going to have to find something early, I think, to turn this one on its head. Real Madrid does not want to get into a shootout with Atalanta. I think they defend well and do what they need to do. A draw is enough for them. I think that's what they pull off. I think that's what they get.
Yeah, especially after the result that Real had on the weekend. I mean, I'm anticipating, Jarrett, that this is probably going to be a bit of a grinder.
Yeah, I would think so. I think this is a bit of a grind, and I think this is a bit of, hey, we're going to make Atalanta bring the fight to us, and we'll just trying to save a little bit of energy here after everything we went through, and try and at least kind of keep them from rolling the ball downhill on us. Like in the same way that Barcelona damn near started rolling the ball downhill on PSG last week. You just want to avoid that sort of thing, and I would be curious if Real Madrid gets a little pragmatic here.
We were asked to keep an eye on Al Hilal in the African Champions League this morning. Nick did not give us the blessing to throw the full weight of soccer down here behind Al Hilal, so sorry, Forecard. They are scoreless in the 33rd minute. You've got African Champions League right now on Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. It's also on the BN Sports Connect service. Al Ahly is up 2-0 on Vita Club. And Simba SC is up 1-0 on Al Merrikh. You've got other games later. Kaiser Chiefs play later if you're looking for an Atlanta connection with Kaiser Chiefs. Of course, Kaiser Motong played in Atlanta, went back home to South Africa, started a club, used the logo from the Chiefs. It's all worked. It's been really fun to see. One of the biggest clubs in Africa. They are so in the Champions League right now. They need a win today against Atletico Petro Leos de Luanda. You've also got games at 3 o'clock as well. So you've got African Champions League leading you into the UEFA Champions League, which leads you into Libertadores qualification rounds this evening. Bolivar hosts Wanderers from Uruguay at 6:15. Deportivo Lara hosts Santos, and Santos should get through that, should be comfortable. The Bolivar Wanderers game could be a tricky one. Then at 8:30, it is Ayacucho not hosting Gremio. It's going to be in Ecuador. Peru said, no, we're not allowing Brazilian teams into our country right now. Ecuador said, sure, you can play it here. Independiente del Valle is playing Unión Española. That will be one to watch. Independiente del Valle managed the first leg well. They lost 1-0. It was an own goal. They get the home leg here. They have every chance to get through. Independiente del Valle and Bolivar are in that same situation where they had narrow losses on the road in leg 1. They get it back home. I think they can both get it done.
Bolivar is a minus 476 favorite against Wanderers.
That's that Bolivian effect right there.
Plus 1,000 Wanderers.
Oof.
Santos and Gremio are on the minus side.
Forget
Santos
it.
at minus 105, Gremio at a minus 110, and
Forget
IDV
it.
is at a minus 385. Española a plus 1,002.
I will tell you that if you are a true degenerate when it comes to juice boxes, the Union Española one grabs a little bit of my attention just because IDV has been inconsistent. They've been getting better, though. I wouldn't touch it. I don't have a juice box stinky enough for it. But if you're looking for an upset possibility there, that would be the one that could jump out to it. I mean, you always get the weirdness with the Bolivian clubs because they're not at the same level, but they have such a home field advantage because of the altitude. That can go so many different directions. It is a little bit of a wild card, but IDV has not been what they used to be this tournament because they lost so many players. They lost their manager. But they've started to put it together, and they've been better in their recent games. That still keeps the door open for a possible upset from Unión Española.
3 more matches tomorrow and 1 on Thursday night to wrap things up in this round.
Yeah, it's in the qualification rounds. Mataflo reminds us that IDV is coming off of a 4-3 win from the weekend. They are finding goals now, but defensively, again, I wouldn't do it. I'm not a degenerate enough, but if you're looking for an upset special, that would be the one that could happen. Mataflo tells us to watch for Pedro Vite of Independiente del Valle. They've got a lot of new faces. I want to say 4 starters from last season, Mataflo, maybe more, have moved on along with the manager. So that's a lot to replace, and that's what this club does. You know, they know that's going to happen. They accept it. They do what they can with what they have when they have it, and they make the sales when the time comes. We've seen it with Moises Caicedo. They will develop the next generation and funnel them in and play them, even when maybe they're not ready yet to be played. And we saw it early in the season where they struggled. Now they're starting to find their footing a little bit.
Yeah, Mataflo mentions all the goals on the weekend. Looking at your totals, total of 2.5 is minus 197, 3.5 a plus 128, 4.5 a plus 284.
No, I'm not even getting into that. No. Because it was 1-0 in the first leg. I mean, it was close in that first leg, so I'm not doing it. 3 to 4 starters, 7 to 8 regulars. Thank you, Mataflo. Thanks for being our Ecuadorian correspondent. I do need to ask Mataflo, and he'll chime in on the Twitch pitch. And this is the beautiful thing of the Twitch pitch. Sometimes we flip the show back on you guys, and we just start interviewing you. This situation, we talked about it on Soccer Over There last night, where this was a factor in the World Cup qualifiers being postponed in South America. The biggest factor was the European clubs didn't want to send their players to South America. That was number one. Number two was there are a growing number of countries that don't want the Brazilian clubs or players coming into their country. Period. Peru blocked it. Said, Gremio, you're not coming. Ayacucho, who lost the first leg big, I mean, it's not going to make a difference here. They couldn't host the second leg. So it is going to be played in Ecuador. Ecuador said, yes, we will allow you to come into this country. Is that getting play in Ecuador, Mataflo, that you have heard about? Is this something that people are not happy about or people don't really mind or whatever? Because Colombia blocked the Brazilian basketball team from coming in. And that was a major point of contention with Colombia set to host Brazil in this round of World Cup qualifiers that has now been postponed. Now things are at the point in CONMEBOL that they might elect to play the next rounds of qualifiers, which are going to be in September and October. They might play them in Europe and play them probably in Spain and Portugal. I mean, I don't know what will be like in September and October. That's the thing, is who knows. Like, when you're looking a few weeks down the line at World Cup qualifiers at the end of this month, when they made the decision, okay, I get it. You're going to say we're not going to do this right now. Now the next one is Copa Libertadores, because we've already got a precedent now. You know, CONMEBOL is moving the game from Peru to Ecuador because the government of Peru doesn't want Brazilians to come into the country at the moment. Are they going to do that when we get into the group stage of the Libertadores? Because this is an easy one. Ayacucho is down 6-1 going into the second leg. It doesn't really matter. So that's easy. But are you going to do this with a first round or a first game in the group stage where Gremio is supposed to go to Atlético Nacional, for example, and the Colombian government's like, no, you're not. And then Atlético Nacional is like, we want the home leg. We want the home game. Well, no, you don't have it. Well, no, we want it. And it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
That's not far down the road. You're like 5 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
Modaflow chimes in, Ecuador is statistically one of the safer countries in the world to travel to right now and generally have their COVID situation under wraps. Modaflow's taking the misses in June. That probably factors into it. And it probably, I'm assuming, they believe in the protocols that CONMEBOL had established. I mean, going back to last year with World Cup qualifiers about the bubble around a team traveling into a country where it is, fly in, straight to the hotel. There's a time to the training pitch. All the meals are at the hotel. You don't leave the hotel, and then you go and play, and then you go home. And that's it. The issues we saw in the November qualifiers were in the team's home country, where they weren't being bubbled like the Uruguayan asado that we saw. And then the whole Uruguayan delegation got sick. That was Uruguay in Uruguay. That wasn't when they were on the road. It's almost like they're better to be on the road because it's safer.
Right.
So it's very tricky. And look, Brazil's been really bad with the coronavirus. The U.S. would understand that pretty well because we haven't actually exactly been great with it either. But it's going to be tough to get the qualifiers done now because they can't afford any more cancellations. It's going to be tough to get the Libertadores done and the Sudamericana done in the way it is currently structured, with now government saying we don't want teams from certain countries to come in.
Yeah, and I want to see how this continues to develop across the board. You mentioned that one margin with Gremio up 5 on Ayacucho. You look at the other score lines, and they're all one, except for Atlético Nacional and Guarani. They're all 1-goal games right now. They're all 1-goal decisions that have to be made. And so this is going to be, when you get through this round, and things could go a bunch of different ways. I want to see how this develops from here outside of that one matchup with Gremio and Ayacucho.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about it more when we get to the group stage and just what that looks like once we get there. Jarrett, I mean, I don't know if any of us really have a plan here on how to handle this, but this is where things are headed with national team games and club games. And we've seen it in Europe where Budapest has become, a home away from home for a lot of teams. Now we're seeing it in the Libertadores. What else could be done? Anything? I think Jarrett's trying to work with me. There he goes.
No, given how it is, I mean, until you get everybody where you think it's going to be good with vaccines and whatnot, and everybody is efficiently being distributed, and it's being efficiently distributed to everybody, and you're comfortable, then I don't know. I think it goes to country by country, and you're looking externally at what everyone else is doing to see what's going to be the safest for people around you in your own country. But I don't know what else you would do. I think they're kind of doing things the best they can. But I think you also have to keep an open mind in this. So like you said, you have your plan of we're only going to do A, B, and C. We're going to go here for this. Okay, well, if it's working, great. But I also think you got to have a bit of an open mind of, okay, what if we try this? And you need to follow through and see if it's going to be tangible or not, to see if there are going to be other ideas that might be easier and less strenuous. Because now you are also, because we've seen this for the last year now, if you start opening the door, especially for international travel for club players who go to their national team, they go somewhere, they end up being quarantined, and you end up like the end of the season coming up with key guys possibly missing. Somebody gets a false positive, somebody gets an actual positive, and then everything gets kind of thrown for a loop because their national team did things a certain way that was different from someone else's national team. There's just so many variables about all of it. It's a mess.
Can we get into a variable with Scotland?
Today.
This is where it gets tough, and right, wrong, ethics, et cetera, we're definitely in uncharted territory, because I think up to this point, where competitions have changed and things have had to figure, you've had to figure things out on the fly. People have been pretty willing to roll with it, and yeah, we lose a home game, we don't have fans anyway. All right, that's just what we have to do. That's fine. Let's do it. Now Scotland is going to play Austria in an upcoming big international match, a qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
Scotland is not going to move the game. They don't have to move the game. Now, we've seen games moved out of the UK in Champions League. They are not going to move it. But you've got German clubs who are not going to allow some of the best players from their clubs to go play for Austria in this game, because they'd have to come back and they'd have to do the quarantine on the other side. FIFA has allowed that. David Alaba, for example, is one that his name has come up. Should Scotland move the game so that gets avoided? First off, and if they don't want to gain the advantage of it, should UEFA mandate that it's moved?
I think it's a weird precedent to set. I could see why it's something you do, and you kind of phrase it in the sense of, hey, we're stepping over what you might think are boundaries to do this, because this falls under that act of God situation that doesn't happen every year. But I think if you end up with UEFA telling them to move it, then for some people it's a matter of opening up a can of worms of, what if they want to overstep for other things in the future. I think they should take the initiative and Scotland should go ahead and move it. It would be cleaner. It would be easier for everyone. It would be less drama. Just go ahead and do it.
But they want to make sure that they can keep their number and keep the coefficient where it is, so they can keep their place in world football.
I know.
And what Austria would be without 7 players going to this match, and if Scotland doesn't move it, then once again, if the situation comes up later where Scotland would be on the receiving end of something like this, then Scotland has set the precedent where folks aren't going to take a whole lot of pity on them if they're going to do what they're going to do to Austria in this round if it happens in the future.
Not just 7 players, 7 starters.
Yeah.
For Austria.
This is the thing where I think you do the right thing in this situation. Because on a purely superficial level, you're going to look at the long-term consequences of this. Like, hey, the moral arc of this could come back and slap them in the face like a dead fish at some point. I think your best bet is just do the right thing. You're going to look even dumber, by the way, is if you don't do this, if you make it get played and Austria still rolls in and beats you, missing a bunch of starters. I think you're better off to move it. I think it's a matter of, like, sure, you want to benefit for the coefficient, and it's an opportunity, but I think it's a matter of doing the right thing. At least for me, it is.
It's a bad
whether
look.
or not that's naive, that'd be fair. Whatever you want to call it, that's just me.
No, it's a bad look. It's a bad look because it will come back to you at some point. It always does. This is where UEFA, in my opinion, needs to take the leadership role, because you shouldn't be in that situation, even if you're Scotland here. I mean, yeah, it's a huge advantage. Yeah, you need all the help you can get. You haven't been to a World Cup in a while. Like, yeah, this is a big deal. You shouldn't have to make that decision. It's like the concussion situations. Like, coaches shouldn't be put in that situation. You need the rules in place to fix it. CONMEBOL canceled qualifiers. They said, we've got the potential for teams to not have their best players coming from Europe. We're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to squeeze it in later, and yeah, it's not going to be great later, but we'd rather do that than make these countries have qualification for the World Cup come down to their domestic players rather than their first-choice players. That's what should happen here. It shouldn't even be Scotland's decision. It should be UEFA.
Yeah.
It should be UEFA who makes this decision and do the right thing. And in these games where teams cannot field their first choice, they either shouldn't play it or it should be moved. so they can play it. That's just where it is. I mean, it's not ideal. It would hurt Scotland, obviously, but they've got to find a better way to do this because you want the best teams to qualify for the World Cup. You don't want Austria, for example, who hasn't been to the World Cup in a while either. You don't want them to miss out on qualification because they couldn't field 7 starters in a qualification game because their clubs wouldn't let them go because they'd have to quarantine coming back from Scotland. That shouldn't make or break somebody's qualification. If it gets down to something like that, throw it to a neutral site. Throw the second, and if you got to do it to be fair, then make sure the Scotland-Austria game that would have been in Austria is at a neutral site. Nobody gets a home game in that back and forth.
Yep.
Throw them both to neutral sites. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do.
Send them to Budapest or Bucharest.
And I feel like that's the right thing to do in that situation. Is like if you take one of them out of it, if you take away someone's home game, I think it's fair to take away the other person's as well. Especially when it's a situation like this where you're taking away a home game, not because the host did something wrong to have it taken away, but because it's a safety measure. I think it's fair to take away the other one's home game as well. And make it very clear, like, hey, this isn't a punishment for either one of y'all, but it's not fair to someone to take a disadvantage, for something that's kind of out of their control. In the same, and especially if Scotland decided, hey, we'll move the game, then I think you definitely take away Austria's home advantage. In that sort of situation.
Exactly.
Hey, if they're willingly giving up theirs, you're going to give up yours. We're going to play this neutral, and then when the world gets back to normal, whatever we define normal as, then we figure it out.
Will asks if you could flip the fixtures, play in Vienna and play the other one in Glasgow. I guess maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the possibilities of that. And Byrne makes it clear the Austrian FA, they're criticizing UEFA. They're not criticizing the Scottish FA. It shouldn't be Scotland's decision here. Will asks,
no, but I hope if the fact that Scotland is having to come down to Scotland, that's a criticism on the FA, not the FA, but on UEFA. But it's one of those where I think Scotland would do well for themselves to step up and make that decision for UEFA.
Yeah.
It's a bad look for UEFA that that a nation would have to make that decision for them. But I think it behoove Scotland to say, you know what, let's just do this.
It's not good for UEFA when CONMEBOL looks like they're the ones making the reasonable decisions right now, and UEFA is like, oh yeah, just play, that's fine, just go ahead and play, it's all good. It's bad luck, bad luck. Mm-hmm. Will asks if CONMEBOL has play-in in any. Does CONMEBOL play in any playoffs? They don't. It's the top 4 out of 10 who go to the World Cup. The 5th place team goes into the continental playoff. But, it's not like Europe where you play down and then you have playoffs for the final spots. They don't have that because there's only 10 teams. That's why long term, I really, really think that what you're going to see is, and this is once you get to a 48-team World Cup, you're going to have qualification come from CONCACAF and CONMEBOL together because you're not going to have 8 out of 10 in South America qualify. I mean, then what are we doing? So, and you're going to definitely have more South American spots when you go to 48 teams because you're going to be adding 16 teams. Yes, a good number will come from Europe, but there's going to be more South American teams. I don't even think you do a qualification if you're going to have 6 or 7 teams qualify from South America. Combine them, and it might be then combined, let's say, 13 or 14 spots from North and South America out of the, how many countries do we have in CONCACAF now? How many members? I think in the 40s, plus the 10 South American, and you seed them out, and you just do it.
Yep.
Can you imagine a World Cup qualifier, U.S. and Argentina at El Monumental?
Oh.
And the U.S. has to go to El Monumental to get a result to go to the World Cup?
Yep.
Where do you bring Argentina to balance that? Because there's really not a Monumental in America. We sent up Columbus, Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota's actually not a bad shout. Because you're not thinking
play in Ann Arbor at the big house. That's what we'll do.
No, there'd be a ton of Argentines there. You don't want that. That's why you want a smaller stadium.
Argentines, you go anywhere, I think, but I see your point.
Yeah, but you want the smaller stadium because the Mexican fans will do the same. But you did it in Columbus, not because there's not many Mexican fans near Columbus, but because you could control the ticketing better. The smaller stadium, you could sell it out among your U.S. soccer members, et cetera, crew, season ticket holders before it even goes to the public market where people can snatch those up. That was why he did it. They did talk about switching the order of the fixtures with Austria and Scotland. And Burns said he assumes that they're assuming that the travel restrictions on the UK will remain in place for a long while. So the official request by the Austrian FA was to move the game to a neutral site. And UEFA, I guess, is either not ruled on that or said no. We have a new guest from Buenos Aires. I'm going to go TW because that's the last two here because I don't know exactly how to pronounce the rest. Names on Twitch, it's not real names. It's tricky sometimes. But TW says, for soccer in the U.S. to grow, it must play in CONMEBOL, like Mexico. In CONCACAF, there's no good level. There's too much of a inconsistent level. Like, you're getting some. Costa Rica generally can pull some surprises. Jamaica should be better than they are if their federation could stop being so corrupt and pocketing money. But they're trying really hard to get some players in for this current qualification process that have ties. That would be pretty impressive if they can get them all. We've seen others pop up occasionally. Honduras has had some good runs here lately. Panama had a golden generation that finally got to a World Cup. It's not the same. Yeah, if the U.S. wants to improve, and I think it would drag the others up too, there's ways to do that. And I think it'd be good for some of the lesser South American nations as well. I mean, I saw yesterday was we missed our On This Day yesterday with this, but it was the anniversary of the first Venezuelan World Cup qualifying win in 1981.
Wow.
There had been a lot of World Cups before qualification for 1982 happened, and that was their first ever qualifying win against Bolivia. Venezuela's never been to a World Cup. Bolivia has only been to one in 94, where they had a golden generation with Marco Echeverri and Juan Berti Suarez. I think it was right before Jaime Moreno broke through. They haven't been since. Like, it would be good for those teams to get more competitive games. I think it would raise their level. You have a couple phases of play, or you do it like Europe, where everybody just gets dumped in. Probably not, because I don't know if you want Argentina going to Puerto Rico, for example, to play. I think you probably have a play-down round with the lesser teams from mostly CONCACAF, and maybe Venezuela and Bolivia have to go into that to qualify. And then you figure out the process. I would love it. It would put the U.S. qualification for the World Cup at greater risk than it's ever been. It shouldn't make it impossible, because I do think the U.S. can compete with everybody in South America on their best day. In general, I think everybody below Argentina and Brazil. The others are up and down at different points, and I think the U.S. can do what it needs to do in those games, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be harder to deal with Paraguay and Uruguay and Colombia in those games than it is to deal with Trinidad. We saw what happened last time, one time.
Yep.
To get better, you got to get tested. It'd be fascinating. Yeah, I'm down with it on the club level too, Wild Charter. I mean, I'm absolutely down with that. I've said it for a long time. I think you should have U.S. teams, MLS teams in the Copa Libertadores, in the Copa Sudamericana. It would make sense for everybody to merge it. It would raise up the smaller nations in CONCACAF because there would be more money coming into the region. And yes, you're not going to get Atlético Pantoja from the Dominican Republic at that level anytime soon, but they're going to get residual money from the U.S. and Mexico participating in CONMEBOL and CONMEBOL participating in CONCACAF. Everybody would benefit from it. I mean, we see the Faroe Islands, we see Andorra, we see Gibraltar in UEFA. It works out just fine to have those countries in there. And yeah, every once in a while you get a wild upset, you get a wild game, you get a great story. That's better than I think what we have right now in CONCACAF, where it is you don't really see the U.S. Virgin Islands, you don't see Puerto Rico, you don't see Dominica, you don't see them in CONCACAF. They have their play-down rounds, they play, nobody sees it, and then you get into the hex, and that's when the U.S. pays attention, or before they pay attention in the semifinal round. And you might have like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for example. Figure out a better way. And I think working together with CONMEBOL would benefit both confederations, and everybody would win from it. So I'd love to see it.
Yep. And frankly, for me, if you merge the two, I would just your mind starts to race about the matchups that you could have in these kinds of situations, and I think that it would elevate the level of play, it would elevate the challenges, and I think it would make everything greater and better for longer term to have that kind of competition if you merge the two.
Yeah, it would grow the game in a big way. It would be scary. It would. You'd need to get a dog. Probably
Yes.
a lot of fans would need to get a dog to be able to handle it because they'd be a little scared of some of these games, and that's fine. That's the test. That's how it gets better. That's how it improves. And yeah, you're going to take your lumps occasionally. But I think you can structure it to where the U.S. and Mexico will be tested more and will miss out occasionally, but still should have their opportunities to qualify in a more difficult route than they do right now, which will be good and will improve their level. Ultimately, if you want to win the World Cup, you need to be tested more.
Yes.
And that should be the goal. Jared, I think
TV rights would become an adventure.
they would. Well, I mean, no. I mean, it'd become an adventure because more people would get in on it domestically. I mean, to get the
that's
U.S.
why.
U.S.
I don't
Argentina
mean it in a
games.
bad way. It just figuring out the TV rights for everybody. I think it would become an adventure for who buys them and how much they buy them for. So.
Well, it'd be like this past one where like the domestic rights would be good because you'd get all the home games, but then as we saw with Paramount Plus, where they snatched up the rights to everything else, those are going to become so much more valuable because I mean it's one thing for the U.S. to go to Costa Rica and people want to watch that game, but for the U.S. to go to Argentina, to go to Brazil, to go to Colombia and play meaningful games in those places, yeah, those rights are the ones that become far more valuable than they've ever been. It'd be exciting. I think the first step they can do to this is the Copa America Centenario kind of format coming back.
Yeah,
that can be the first step. That should be a regular thing.
And I think the next step for me is to get out of here before John starts his read.
That's what I thought too. Thank you for your picks. Thanks for hanging out for hour number one, Jarrett.
Yes.
Thanks for not getting too upset when we attacked Scotland. It's all good.
Get in line.
See you later, Jarrett.
Bye.
All right, John is stretching for some reason. You know what that means.
Yep.
Also for some reason. John is going to tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place you need to go, and it is to Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, to have all of your concerns addressed. How do you have your concerns addressed, you may ask? There are 3 different ways that you can have them addressed. 1, get a free consultation by picking up the phone, 404-377-9191, or shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com, or go onto the World Wide Web, large device or small, in the address bar, hit aa-legal.com, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the home page. And in addition to seeing all of the accolades that Apolinsky and Associates, LLC have garnered over the years and still hold as a part of their dossier, you can have all of your questions addressed perhaps by looking at all the different columns and all the different pull-down menus and all of the different things that are on display on the homepage at aa-legal.com. But if for some reason your questions are still in the ether, they still need to have an answer, there's a pop-up window that pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. And maybe you can have your questions answered there in addition to or separate from the homepage for Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama, so you're represented in both the Eastern and Central time zones. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. It is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
See, I think what I've learned is I need to try to find a way to rush you because it's much better that way. Like, for example, you went a good 45 seconds longer than yesterday.
Yeah, because yesterday you proclaimed breaking news.
Yes, there was breaking news. Yunus Musa chose the United States. That was breaking news.
Yes, it was.
But I don't know if you're going 45 seconds longer here was better.
Okay.
We'll find out. Herman Burgos is speaking to the media on Sportia, on TIC.
Well, for a minute there, I thought you were going to say Herman Burgos was going to be grading me this morning.
He would probably be very harsh on your grading. He was wearing a Yankees hat in black and red, which was interesting. Yeah. He's an intimidating guy. I would not be questioning Herman Burgos at all. I want to see what he does at Newell's. I'm very excited to see his imprint on that team. Okay, big words down here. Dossier, very good hand gestures. Garnered, Dossier, Ether, John hit the thesaurus +2, accurate. Alex Pacine, 9.9739. I don't want to be taken for granted.
Oh wow.
He always gives you a 10, and he feels like you're taking him for granted, John.
I do not.
We have visitors from Buenos Aires today. We have visitors from Portugal today. Hi, nice. Hi, Braindew. Welcome. We'll talk more world football. We'll talk some MLS, too. We've got Atlanta United player Machop Chol with an interview at 11 o'clock. It's a busy day. Busy day. Champions League, all the stuff. A good read today from Katie, 9.35. Sean even gave you a good score from a Russian judge, or now East German judge. Sean might have moved for Sean might have moved for this one because it's a good score. That's what throws me off. -1 not addressing. -1 not addressing the audience. -1 addressed. We get it. -2 addressed again. +1 speed was good today. That was a little long. A decent read today, sir. 5.9897. That's about as good as it gets from the East German judge who moved to Russia to deliver that judging.
Check.
Pacing is all the same. Pick moments to speed up and moments to slow down for emphasis reason. 6.2. Let's see. That's it so far. That's all the scores. Thanks, TW, for hanging out. Hopefully see you again, and I would love to see the U.S. and Argentina meet in another Copa America, and love to see Mexico in there, and just in general. Copa America should be combined at least once every cycle, no question. Mizzano, don't know if it was my audio this morning, but didn't hear the music before John started. It was a little bit lower because I'm trying not to throw him off because he complains about it. Anyway, the overuse of addressed, -4 for the number of times I heard it, 6 out of 10. It was used a lot. Maybe try a different one. You did hit the thesaurus for other words. Maybe a different one. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Brandy wants to talk about PSG. We'll get into PSG for a minute. We'll get into France in general because that's the most competitive league at the moment. And I didn't expect that to be the case. I do want to hit this because Ragamuffin's head might explode because it's always funny when we talk Liverpool and everybody gets in their feelings about it. Liverpool, if they don't go to the Champions League next year, they could miss out on £50 million.
Oof.
That's a lot. Broadcast revenue, bonus payments, there's clauses in player and staff contracts, which will see wages drop with no Champions League. There's also an issue with the Nike contract. They're guaranteed to bank £30 million each season. It could go up to $75 million because of the global brand and reach. However, if they're not in Champions League, it gets dinged.
Mm-hmm.
And there are penalties in commercial deals if they don't go to the Champions League. The Nike deal is the same. Now, in the Nike situation, there's bonuses that they'll miss out on. But the deal itself is only impacted for the base rate if they miss 2 seasons in a row out of the Champions League. Will Liverpool be back in the Champions League after next season? We will see, because they're not making it this time unless they win the thing, which they maybe could. Maybe. We'll see what kind of draw they get. Let's get into France. And let's get into PSG and talk about this because there's some weird things going on at PSG. They have the win over Barcelona. Everybody's excited. Okay, they're moving on to the Champions League. Everybody is very pumped about Mauricio Pochettino. Well, they lost on the weekend. They've lost a lot of games in the league. A lot more than you would think if you're just seeing them in Champions League. It is very strange. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on here because we know the talent this team has. They're more talented than anybody else in France. They had a chance to go to the top of the table. They lost at home to Nantes. They got the lead before halftime. They blew the lead at home to Nantes. They're in second. Lille's 3 points clear at the top. Lille, everybody's trying to throw this thing away. They had a goalless draw at Monaco. 7 losses this season for PSG. Back-to-back Ligue 1 losses for the first time at home since 2012. We'll get into the off-the-field side here in just a second because there are other things going on with PSG. But Lille is 3 points clear. Lyon is on the same number of points as PSG, but behind them on goal differential. Monaco is 7 points off the lead, 4 points off of PSG and Lyon. It's a pretty big gap back to Marseille, who has won back-to-back games under Jorge Sampaoli. They're on 45 points. Looks like they'll be going into Europe next year, potentially. Only 3 get into the Champions League in France. Monaco is right now in that 4th spot, but they're only 4 points back. I think last time we talked about this, John, you thought PSG would right the ship. They'd be fine. They'd win the league. Are you still feeling that way? I'm not.
I'm looking at Lille. I really am. And Lyon, breathing down their necks at 60 points. I know there's goal differences. That's 13 right now in goal difference. But no, my opinion has altered. I'm looking at Lille and I'm going with PSG right now.
I'm not looking at any of them because they're all. The recent form at the top. Marseille's the only team in France that's won back-to-back, first off.
Yeah.
Lille, 3 draws in their last 5. They haven't lost, but 3 draws in that 5. PSG has won 3 of their last 5, but they've lost 2. There's no draws for them. Lyon, 2 wins, 2 draws, a loss. Middling. Monaco, 2 wins, 2 draws, a loss. Middling. That's your top 4. And nobody's grabbing this league and running with it. It's strange. Monaco on the 19th goes to Saint-Etienne, who is in 16th place. That should be 3 points for Monaco. We'll see if it is. Marseille goes to Nice. Marseille, again, back-to-back. Nice is in 12th. That's a little more of a toss-up, but Marseille is in good form. Lille hosts Nîmes. Who's in 19th.
PSG on April 3rd and Lyon on the 25th.
Say that again.
PSG gets Lille on April 3rd, and then Lyon and Lille on April 25th.
Yeah, I was getting to this weekend's games first to see where we are going into the break, because then it's the international break, and then it's a little hard to guess how teams come back. PSG goes to Lyon on the 21st, and that's going to be a massive game before the break.
Mm-hmm.
PSG's got to also figure out some things off the field. Now, it's been a little confusing on how this has been reported, and I don't know the exact details because I've seen it both ways. The family homes of PSG players Angel Di Maria and Marquinhos were burgled while they played on Sunday. Di Maria was substituted in the 62nd minute after being told about it. There were reports early on after this that his family had been held hostage. It's been said differently in the report that I read from the BBC this morning. His family were only aware their home had been burgled after it happened. Marquinhos's parents' home had been burgled. Nobody was hurt, is what Marquinhos added to that. Public prosecutor said that a French anti-organized crime squad has been tasked with the investigation into the incident at Di Maria's home. It looked into burglaries at the homes of Mauro Icardi and goalkeeper Sergio Rico earlier this year. When you're having problems with consistency on the field and then this kind of stuff is happening off the field, it's a problem. And, we've seen stuff with ultras and all of this. I have no idea why this would be happening randomly while the team is playing. it's got to be a huge distraction, and
Yep.
I don't know how you handle this.
Yeah, L'Equipe has also reported now that PSG is going to fund 24-hour security.
Yeah, have to.
And the players, Mace says, many of the players have video surveillance, but security guards will be hired to help give the footballers and their families more protection now. So now you have this added level of security in this chase as you're trying to right the ship and stay at the top of the standings. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here and a lot of distractions, sadly, that we're talking about things like this. And you'd mentioned the variety of how things are being reported. French outlet RMC had initially reported that the incident at the Di Maria house had turned extremely violent.
Right.
So you're getting a lot of different ways in this, but a lot of distractions. And you know that players like Di Maria and Marquinhos, they're going to want to focus on their families and make sure that they're safe. And it's a distraction for what you're looking at on the field, and it makes everything secondary, as it should be.
And Di Maria has been huge for them this season, especially with Neymar out right now, injured. It's incredibly difficult. And, you know, Mauricio Pochettino, I think these are the moments where him being a guy who I think does a good job of building relationships with players. I think he's a very relatable manager. I just a little story about Mbappe at Barcelona, asking how many times Pochettino had won there, and he said just once. He said it'll be 2 tomorrow. Like things like that. They like him. I think he tries to be, you know, somewhere between a big brother and a father figure with a lot of these players. That's going to be really necessary right now while they're dealing with the pressure of winning a title in a year where it's more competitive than it's ever been, along with this stuff off the field. It's a huge challenge, and it's not something that you can ever really prepare for. And it'll be fascinating to see how they look in that game this weekend. A huge game. Biggest game of the year up to this point for PSG. I want to see how they look. I want to see if they look like they're locked into this.
Yeah, and also remember that Di Maria's house was targeted back in 2015 when he was with Manchester United, and at the time Wayne Rooney was asked about it, and Rooney thought that his being targeted was, you know, that incident was one of the reasons that Di Maria didn't get any kind of a rhythm and didn't find his footing at Manchester United. So this isn't the first time that something like this has happened to Angel Di Maria.
100%. 100%. And it does affect your game. So the match this weekend on the 21st at Lyon is a big one in a lot of different ways. We'll just have to see how the team looks and how they prepare. In general, when we get into Champions League, and if I'm not mistaken, we have the draw on, would it be Friday?
Yeah.
For the next stage. We don't know who they're going to get drawn with, but what are your thoughts about PSG in Champions League? Are they a title contender there?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to take the draw and set it aside. I think that, you know, as you look at, I think that Bayern is above them. I think right now Manchester City is above them. So, you know, you're looking, and if Atleti or Chelsea, I think the winner of that one is also a part of the discussion. So I would say part of the discussion, but not at the top of my list. How about that? How's that for phrasing?
I think you're underselling them a little bit. I think they have the talent to do it. And the question is going to be the opposite of what it's usually been about PSG. You know, in the past when we've talked about PSG in Champions League, it's been, well, they're not getting tested domestically, so it's hard for them to get up for these games.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting tested. So you're being put through pressure every week now in Ligue 1, which you weren't facing before, which is good, because then I think you can rise to the level of these games. They have the talent. Mm-hmm. The talent's not the issue. I think it's been that mentality. So I think it actually helps them. Even if they somehow don't win Ligue 1, I think it helps them because they're being tested in a way they're not normally tested. Now, the off-the-field stuff, that could be what undoes it for them. That could be the problem. But I think it's going to help, and I think they have the talent. They of course want as good of a favorable draw as they can get, but they can win the Champions League. I think they're absolutely a contender.
Well, and then as you say that, then let me take the flip side of the argument, just for the sake of being a devil's advocate. We mentioned how they've been in their last 5, and if they aren't setting themselves apart right now under Mauricio Pochettino, then the doubts should be there, I would think, in theory, about them playing in the European contest.
But what did they do to Barcelona while they're struggling at domestic? I mean,
no, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm just taking devil's advocate on the flip side there.
Well, I mean, yeah, but do you actually believe the devil's advocate role, or
no,
are you just
I don't. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like I said, I
disagree.
I'm taking the flip side of that argument just to present it.
Yeah, but I think it's wrong, because it was the number one thing we said in the past was they're not sharp, they're not battle tested, because Ligue 1 has been so easy for them. Well, now they're battle tested, and you saw what it did in that first leg at Barcelona on the road. Complete domination, to the point they didn't even have to play the second leg, and they didn't really show up in the second leg. They didn't need to. That's fine. Now you're going to get tested these next 2 games in league, where before the international break and after, you've got you're facing number 3 and number 1 in the league. That's going to get you ready. You need to get Neymar healthy.
Time to sit there, and with all the challenges that you've got domestically, you add that to the being battle tested part, and see if it translates into playing European football.
So who are the favorites for you in Champions League? I mean, Manchester City, I think, is probably right there for most. They'd have to be the number 1 favorite in current form. Bayern is there as the defending champs. Mm-hmm. Who is your number 3?
Yeah. If you'd asked me, if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said Atleti.
Yep, I would have too.
Not so sure about that now, but because of what Chelsea has done under Tommy Tuchel, I could easily put them in that spot that I would have Atleti in, just because of what we're seeing with Thomas Tuchel. So, I would say that my 4 are City, Bayern, the winner of Atleti and Chelsea, and then PSG with Real Madrid part of the discussion.
I don't trust Real Madrid at all. I don't think they have enough. I think they're good, but I think this is where it ends for them at the quarterfinal.
Yeah. And, then which Liverpool do you get? So, I mean, for me, there's 4, and then there's everybody else right now. It's like I'm looking at City, Bayern, the winner of Chelsea and Atleti, and then that 4th slot, PSG in that 4th slot. There's
a lot of Porto, Porto, just kidding comments in the Twitch pitch right now. I wouldn't want to see Porto in the draw.
Porto is a pain in the backside. I don't want to draw them at all.
If I'm City, Bayern, whoever comes out of Atleti, Chelsea, PSG, I do not want Porto in the draw. That's not the quarterfinal I want, because you're going to suffer from it a lot. They've been very, very good. They're well coached. They showed their mental strength to get through it with Juventus. That's not a team I want to see. They're not as talented, but they fight, and they will make it difficult. And that's a tough quarterfinal if you get them.
I want as many frozen envelopes as I can get to make sure that I don't get Porto in the next round.
Now, I don't think Pepe can do what he did again. 38 will show up here at some point.
Yeah.
38 years old, he'll look 38 here at some point.
Yeah.
But if he can be even a shadow of what he was in that second leg, it's tough. It's going to be difficult. I would not want to see them. My number 3 is PSG right now, and it's mainly because of the Atleti-Chelsea one. I don't know who's coming out of it.
Yeah.
I lean to Chelsea. I think they find a way. It would have been Atleti. I just think right now catching them when you have, if you're Chelsea, if you'd caught them a month before, I think Chelsea loses it. Now, I think Chelsea can get through. They've got the advantage. Atleti, I don't know if it's the pressure. I don't know if it's, the kind of cracks in the foundation here. Really want to know what the long-term situation is going to be for Joao Felix.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea gets through, and then, can they build a little bit more? Because they're an incredibly difficult team to break down. Tuchel has not lost at Chelsea. They haven't conceded many goals, but can they score enough to get through?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to ride a strong defense to get through when we've seen this defense crumble at times? They haven't under Tuchel, but we saw it before. They have enough goals in them. I put them behind PSG.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Braindew here, and this was something that came up last night. It came up in another conversation I had yesterday. Atleti has to open up more and play like they were earlier in the season.
Yeah.
They're not going to be a wild, expansive team under Diego Simeone, and it don't have to be. That's fine. But he opened them up more earlier, and they were playing really, really well. As things are getting later in the year, it's getting tighter. They're getting more defensive. They're putting more behind the ball. The approach in the game against Chelsea was surprisingly defensive. Yeah, they were missing a few pieces, but still it was too defensive. They've got to play in a more open way. The questions last year, right before this time, were, is Simeone's time up? Do they need somebody new? They need a new face. He showed that he could do some different things, but now he's reverting to type.
Yeah.
That makes me question Atleti getting this done. I would have said Barcelona wins La Liga, but now with this whole thing hanging over their head about the presidential stuff and the board and who knows where that's going to go, that could absolutely be a distraction again. And then you bring, Messi potentially leaving again because he doesn't trust the leadership. I mean, there's so many different elements that can spin the La Liga title away, that can spin Ligue 1's title away with PSG and what they're dealing with, that can spin Champions League into different directions. Maybe being the most stable of the bunch, it's Manchester City's year.
Yeah.
And it's Pep's year to get another Champions League trophy. We'll continue getting ready for all of that and previewing it as we go. We've got some MLS stuff to talk about as well as we are into preseason. We are still in silly season in a lot of different ways. Alan Franco from Independiente, that is still reportedly on at this point, but it has not been approved by Independiente side of things. Offer on the table, according to reports. They have to make a difficult decision because they don't want to lose a starting center back right now. They don't have a ready-made replacement. Their manager, Falcione, has said that he'd have to turn to young players who are inexperienced. He doesn't want to stand in the way of a player with an opportunity. He would love for that opportunity to come in June, not right now, because they're playing well. They won big last night against Sarmiento, but it's a 6-0 win. They are in a great spot leading their group right now. At perfect timing. They just throw Alan Franco and Atlanta United's logo up on Teisei. $2.8 million for 50% of the pass is where things stand. They're trying to get this deal done on the Atlanta side because they want to get him into preseason now. On the Independiente side, they've got issues to get money in the door right now to pay off debts that are due, because if they don't, they're going to be banned from the transfer market because they owe players, they owe clubs money. I don't know if they have it at the moment. It's really difficult. Falcione said today they received an important, this was yesterday, this was after the game last night, they received an important offer for Allen and for the club. And it's important for the club because they need the money. It's important for Alan Franco because he's had opportunities in the past and he wasn't allowed to go. The LA Galaxy came calling last year. Wasn't allowed to make that move. Falcione wants him to stay. I don't know if the club's going to be able to allow him to stay until June. I think they're going to need the money in sooner. We will see. Falcione said, I don't like these types of situations, of course, because it's a it's a very tricky one for them because their market is closed. Their window is closed. They can't go out and replace him. Not just what they're doing domestically. They're going into the Copa Sudamericana with games starting in late April. The group stage will be done before the transfer window opens. And advancing to the knockout rounds for them in that competition is very, very important financially. If they have Alan Franco, they have a much better chance of advancing. So it's tricky all the way around. They are waiting on the decision from the player and from the directors of the club right now. It's where things stand. So again, $2.8 million for 50% of the pass is what's being reported by TIC on Sportia. Literally at this minute, there are players outside or there are reporters outside at Independiente waiting on answers. So we will keep you posted, but it sounds like, and this is my gut feeling, it's going to be too hard for the club to say no.
Yeah.
Right now, I think they're going to have to take it. And Gustavo, our Independiente resident fan, will at least be happy that he's going to a club that he also loves. But it's tough for Independiente. But we talked about this months ago. They are in a situation where they have to sell. They just don't have any other answers. And it's one thing when you're behind. I think they actually are behind on his contract as well. And part of the negotiation would be him forgiving debts that are owed to him. We saw that with Cecilio Dominguez, who's in Austin. He was owed money. Part of the transfer was him forgiving debts. They're so up against it. They're not even like Barcelona right now, where it's, yes, they've got these debts coming, but they haven't come yet. Well, Independiente, they've come. I mean, you've got cases in front of FIFA, and it's you owe players, you owe clubs money, you've got to pay now. And that's where it stands. We will see. We will see where that goes. But other things on the MLS front, because nothing official is out of Independiente and Buenos Aires just yet. There is a report from France football. Atlanta used to be the wild rumor front, especially if you followed Argentine soccer and you'd hear any player linked to Atlanta. Inter Miami has taken it to a whole nother level because every player in the world is linked to Inter Miami at this stage because of David Beckham. France football's latest. David Beckham wants to sign Marcelo for Inter Miami this summer. His contract is up at Real Madrid next summer of 2022. He isn't playing. He is on the side with Real Madrid. So I get it. What he has left in the tank, I don't know. It's fallen off pretty fast for him. And I don't think an attacking fullback in his mid-30s, I want to say he's 33. I could be wrong. That's one where it feels like the wheels come off faster. And in this league, I think would get exposed in a pretty bad way with pace. He would obviously add a lot to the team going forward, but could he defend? And the defense is a big question for Miami as it is.
Yeah, 32.
32, okay. You'd have to try to find a way to get him as a non-designated player. Maybe you could pull that off. They did somehow with Matuidi, although that's been questioned. Mm-hmm. And we haven't heard any follow-up on that just yet either. No. Oh, boy. I don't know about that one. They do need a right back. That is a position of need. So we're actually into a rumor with a position that is needed by the team.
The match.
Marcelo would be an upgrade from Nealis at right back. Absolutely. But I just think it would then create 5, 4, 7, 8 games of some sort, because I don't know how he's going to get up and down the right side consistently in this league playing through the summer. I was
going to say, a summer in Miami.
I think he gets exposed. I mean, as somebody who is not on the Miami payroll, sure, go ahead, sign him up. He'd be great going forward, but I don't see it. 40 marker with a question real quick on the Barcelona side of things. Why did Bartimeo get arrested? It was down to trying to remember the specifics. The whole Barcagate thing from last year, where there was an outside agency that was using social media to affect the reputations of Bartimeo's enemies and players like Messi and Piqué and Pep and others who were against him. He paid for an agency to use social media to slander them and attack them. But I think the biggest issue with why he got arrested was he hid where the money came from. And there were reports that it came out of La Masia, the academy. And the club, which he had said had not done this, but it actually looks like the club funded this initiative from this outside agency on social media. And he tried to hide it. And that's what got him in trouble. I think there's also tax implications as well. So, that's what he got arrested for. He got bailed out. He's out of jail. But we haven't seen any updates on what's up with that. That's just part of the craziness with Barcelona. Laporta's back, but he doesn't have the funds to guarantee 15% of the budget, so he might not be back. He's got a deadline tomorrow. Bartimeo, the former president, has been arrested. He's out on bail. Lionel Messi hasn't signed anything yet because he said he'd wait till the end of the season. They've got huge debts coming. Barcelona's a lot of fun. If you're a Major League Soccer team and you're looking at players, Barcelona might be one you look at. Not just for the bigger names, but for those guys that might be in that $5 to $10 million range. You know, if there's a young player who's getting blocked and there's nowhere for them to go, they don't have room to play right now because they're blocked behind somebody, bring them over on loan or try to buy. Like, Barcelona's going to have to make moves. They're going to have to sell. They're going to have to make deals. MLS should absolutely be in the door for them. They just don't know who to call right now because Bartimeo's not the guy, and Laporta might not be the guy to talk to. It's craziness. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more. There's going to be more. Let's get back to MLS on the fans in the stands front. We're starting to hear people's and clubs' plans on what this season will look like. D.C., now that the District of Columbia has opened things up and allowed this to happen, they can have up to 2,000 fans able to attend games at Audi Field to start the MLS season. 2,000 out of 20, okay, what, 10%?
Yeah, 10%.
All right, that's okay. That's a starting point. D.C. was one that I didn't think they would when we started. So, okay. Toronto is the one that caught us by surprise. Waking the Red had the update. Great site on the SB Nation network. 680 News in Toronto broke this yesterday. MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, they own the Raptors. They own the Maple Leafs. Obviously, they own Toronto FC. Everything. They own Canada, according to John. At least they own Toronto.
All of Toronto and Canada and Ontario province.
They own the whole thing. Well, their arena, Scotiabank Arena, was given a WELL health safety rating. That's the first Canadian sports facility to receive that. That implies that the safety of the staff and visitors is being effectively prioritized. People are kind of taking that and then saying, well, if 20,000 inside a Scotiabank Arena and they're getting the WELL rating, it probably would be easy for BMO Field with 30,000 plus, but open air, to be able to do that. Now, maybe not open completely 100%, but at least they can get fans back in Toronto. Yeah. Okay, that's part of the issue. The other part is the borders. And I don't know where the border situation stands with Canada and the U.S., but Toronto announced that they would begin the regular season in Florida. They left it very open-ended. Things are moving a little bit quicker than we thought here. Coming months, we could see games back in Toronto. It seems like the building will be open. It seems like that part will be easy, but the back and forth across the border now becomes the bigger issue. Have you seen any updates on that, on travel back and forth across?
Chasing it right now, and what I remember, and I'm trying to see if it has changed, is that if you're coming from the U.S. to Canada, you have to go into a 2-week quarantine.
Okay.
Like immediately you're there, you're quarantined, and then after 2 weeks, then you can, do what you're out there and do what you're supposed to do. I'm checking right now to see if that has changed, but every situation that I've come across is a 2-week quarantine the second you hit the door.
I know that's been the rule for a while now. I think when that changes is when you can get both Major League Baseball teams back in, Toronto coming back and forth across the border. What are the Blue Jays going to do? Have they announced anything for the upcoming season?
Right now, it's Dunedin to start things. Their spring training facilities.
Which means it's temporary, which in my opinion means it feels like it's going to be shorter time at Dunedin. Like if they were going to do, where were they last year? Buffalo?
Yeah, they were in Buffalo.
If they were going to do Buffalo again, that feels like a longer term thing. If they're going to stay at their spring training home, yeah, they feel like it's going to move faster. So if you've got the Blue Jays, who again open air, well, I guess kind of open air. Is it open air? Do they still do the open air? No. In Toronto, not in Dunedin. I know Dunedin doesn't have a dome. In Toronto, where the Blue Jays play.
Yeah, Skydome has the open roof idea.
Got it. Just making sure. I wasn't sure if it was like the Big O where it stopped opening.
Yeah, no, it didn't. The umbrella broke, and it is an open air facility.
Okay, so if you're seeing progress, they should be able to get back. If they're staying at Dunedin short term, it should be short term. Toronto FC basically did the same thing. It's like, hey, we're going to Florida. We're going to start down here. We'll be back at some point. It sounds like that some point could be a little bit sooner than we thought, because there was a feeling at one point that this would be all season long, where the Canadian teams would be playing in this country. But now it's feeling like, well, maybe it's not quite as bad. Maybe it's a few months. Maybe by the time we get to the summer, you're back in Toronto, you're back in Vancouver, you're back in Montreal.
And one of the keys for MLSE when they were trying to determine a home for Toronto FC was making sure that whatever lease agreement they came up with whatever venue was one that they could exit quickly. And the terminology was like a couple of days. Like if we got notice, we could be out in a couple of days. Everything would be fine. Then we could go back to Toronto and be back at home base. And so that's what Toronto FC has been looking at this entire time. So everything from me in all of their negotiations has lent itself to having just a temporary home on the idea that they would be back in Toronto and back at BMO sooner rather than later.
Well, no. I think, honestly, a month ago, there was no sooner rather than later here. Like a month ago, when this first came up, nobody was thinking you'd be back in Toronto in June. If they were, nobody said that.
Right.
Now it's changing now is the point. Like I think they left it open-ended because they feel that way, that they could leave it open-ended. I think the Blue Jays not securing anywhere past Dunedin shows you that they're at least hearing that it'll be sooner rather than later now. Toronto FC waiting as long as they did to announce anything, then saying we're going to stay in Florida, not even like naming one place. They're going to bounce around. They're going to be nomads in Florida. Makes it feel like it's going to be shorter. So it's moving in the right direction. Now that you're getting venues approved, things are definitely heading in the right direction. BMO Field would be next. The border is going to be the issue, though.
Yeah.
Because that's the barrier at the moment. Is sure you can open up the venue, but can you go back and forth across the border and play a season and not have to quarantine for 2 weeks? You can't play a season that way.
Yeah. Right now, according to the Canadian government, avoid non-essential travel outside Canada until further notice. That is the first thing that it says.
Yeah, but that's avoid. That's not a quarantine. That's saying avoid it.
Yeah. So. But
they tell you to avoid a lot of things that could be dangerous to you, and they don't actually stop you from doing it.
Right, true. But no, I haven't seen anything other than that initial 14-day quarantine the second you come from the U.S. to Canada.
Okay. On the injury front, Sebastian Blanco is back in training for Portland Timbers, back on his birthday yesterday, which is pretty cool. That's a big get for them. Valeri and Blanco are getting up there, but Portland, I think, is a favorite in the West. The West, as people are chatting about in the Twitch pitch, is really tough to read. I mean, Seattle, I don't think they're the same team without Jordan Morris. They've got other absences to fill as well. LAFC, what does it look like up top? Is it Corey Baird? Is it somebody else? Does Carlos Vela come back, and look good again? He looked good late last season, but now you've got another layoff. He is 32, so it's getting up there a little bit. You've got the questions with Rossi, and why hasn't he been sold yet? You don't have Brian Rodriguez now, who had a pretty good year last year. You've got the same issues defensively that you've always had for LAFC. LA Galaxy are not a competitor right now. Sporting is very good. Minnesota is good. Portland is good. I don't know who I would say the favorite is at the moment in the West. Dallas should be better. A young team, another year on them. They should be better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The West is a really tough one to call. I think the whole league is tough to call, but the West doesn't have that little bit of separation that I feel like could be in the East. Columbus feels like a cut above. Defending champs, they got better in the offseason. Atlanta, I think, can be there. They won't be at the beginning. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take a little bit of time. You got a lot of new faces. And you're going to have to ease your way in. I think by the summer, they'll be at their best. So early on, you might not be there in the table, but I think quality of play, you can get there. Okay? NYC, there's questions. Philadelphia, I think fewer questions, but there are questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can they be as good as they were last year again? They can, I think. They're going to have somebody step up and replace Mark McKenzie. Is that the combination of Elliott and Glesnes? Is it Stuart Finley coming in? Got to see it a little bit. Is Anthony Fontana the guy ready right now to replace Brendan Aronson? He was good last year in limited minutes. He's been good throughout his career in limited minutes. Aronson's killing it at Red Bull Salzburg, by the way. He's hit the ground running over there. So is Fontana the guy to carry them? Because the lineup we saw yesterday for them in preseason was pretty much what we'll see from them. Who the second forward will be is a little bit of a question with Kasper Shabilko, but Fontana at the point of the diamond with Bedoya, with Montero, with Martinez. That's the midfield diamond. That's what you're going to see. The 4-4-2 diamond, that's what you're going to see from Jim Curtin. The back line, we saw Elliott and Glesnes yesterday. Okay. Mbaiso on the right side, replacing Ray Gaddis, and on the left side, Kai Wagner, who's a very good left back. That's what we're going to see from them. They have the best goalkeeper in the league in Andre Blake. Is that going to be enough? It feels like a cut above like the second tier. Yeah. Atlanta's like in between first and second tier to start, in my opinion. They can get to that first tier when everything is clicking. How long does it take to click? We don't know. First tier's Columbus, first tier's Philadelphia. Is there anybody else in that first tier for you?
Toronto, if they're healthy.
No. Not for me. Not with the new manager.
True.
Not quite. They're second tier, which is good. But yeah, they're right below that.
I think Orlando's second tier.
Orlando could be first tier. They could. I think they could actually be better this year. Losing DK, at least for the first half of the season, and honestly, I think for good, I think you're going to get an offer that you can't say no to, and he's going to stay in England. They can still be better because of Alvarado now. Pato will have to see what he is. I don't really know, but he could be that replacement for DK up top. You've also got Ayas, who you added last season. We didn't really see much of him. You've got Akindele, who's solid. Benji Michel, very good. They've got a ton of talent. Can Nani still be Nani for another year is maybe the biggest question. And how Oscar Pereja manages the expectations now. Because last year they caught people by surprise. This year they won't.
Yep.
How does that change for them? I think they can be in the top tier. I think New England could be in that top tier.
Yeah.
It's a little frail for New England with Carlos Heel, with Gustavo Bo. If either one goes down, they're not top tier. They automatically go back into the second tier. But, it's competitive. Nashville, if they get more goals, yeah, they could be top tier. Because defensively, they're as good as anybody.
Yep.
The East is at least a little more tiered. The West feels like just a gaggle of teams.
Yeah.
The East feels like there's a couple, maybe 3 tiers that are a little more defined, but it's a very narrow gap between the two.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow gap.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta to me is what your self-described second tier, but building into the first tier over time. Montreal, I have questions specifically.
I think Atlanta is an unknown in between the first and second tier for me. They're not second tier to start. They're an unknown because of so many new faces.
Right.
Chara, I don't know if Orlando is a clear first tier because I don't know what the number 9 is going to look for them. That's why I hold back on them. I think they are, but I don't think they're clear. I think for me it's Columbus and Philly that are clear first tier. Orlando and New England are questionable first tier, I guess, if we want to put it that way.
Like 1B. I look at Montreal and I've got questions, especially since they're starting the year down in Fort Lauderdale. Chicago, they're that higher end of the third tier, part of the bottom of the playoff discussion. Columbus, we talked about that. DC, I think they're third tier. They're going to be fun to watch, but I think that they're third tier. I think FC Cincinnati is going to be better with the acquisitions that they're brought in. Inter Miami, for me, I have the question mark bubbles all over my head about Inter Miami. We talked about Nashville, talked about New England, NYCFC. I have questions. Red Bulls, I'm like, and we talked about Orlando, Philly, and Toronto. So I think that you could take that. I think you could take the East and put it into 3 separate groups of folks you are certain are going to be at the top. You know that the second group, they're going to have folks who are going to be a part of the playoff discussion. And then the third folks who won't be a part of the playoff discussion should be better, but won't be in the playoffs.
I'll go ABC real quick in both of the conferences with where it feels like teams are right now. And these are in alphabetical order is how they come up. Atlanta, like I said, I think is between A, B, and I think they'll be in the A. I don't know when they get to the A. Right. Montreal, I think is C. Maybe top of the C, but C. Chicago, I think is B. Columbus, I think is A. DC is C. Cincinnati is C, edging closer to B. Miami is bottom of the B, edging to C. Nashville is a solid B. New England is an A at the bottom of the A. NYC is a B. Red Bulls are a bottom half B, maybe a C.
Yeah.
Orlando is an A in the bottom half of the A. Philadelphia is an A. Toronto is a B. In the West, Austin, I think, has to be a C to start. We just have to see.
Yeah.
Colorado's a B. Dallas is a B. Houston's a C. Galaxy, I think, are a C.
Yeah.
LAFC's an A. Minnesota's an A. Portland's an A. Salt Lake's a C. San Jose's a B. Seattle's a B.
Yeah.
Kansas City's an A. And Vancouver's a C until further notice. Vancouver could be a surprise and be a B. It's just a lot of new faces. It's almost like Atlanta, except starting from further back.
Yeah.
Where they could be a B by the end of the year, but I don't know if they get there yet. I don't know. The Crew are the team that has, at least on paper, separated from everybody. Yeah. And we'll see if they can maintain it. They're better with depth, but you never know. I mean, you never know. They did the thing that we talked about with Liverpool, though. Good teams try to get better when they win something. They don't just settle on it. And Liverpool had a run where I think they settled after last year. They didn't bring in players to push the group that had carried them or potentially replace them. Columbus did. Pedro Santos is getting up there. He's going to be gone here at some point. Kevin Molino might be that replacement, at least for a few years. You've got competition up top, but Jossie Zardes is your starter. Bradley Wright Phillips is a good backup. You have a good number 2, number 9 now. They added Perry Kitchen in the midfield. That's a really good get because one of the big questions for them was what happens when Artur or Nagbe can't play. Aiden Moore stepped up in MLS Cup and shocked all of us, but that was a huge wild card. Perry Kitchen's a solid holding midfielder, just a solid holding midfielder. If he's a rotational piece now at this stage of his career in his late 20s on a top team, that's not a bad place to be.
Yep.
They've got more depth at center back now with Wormhor coming back from injury. They've got some depth on the outside. You know, it's a good team. It's a very good team, and you've brought in enough new faces to push who's there. You know, Kitchen is going to make sure that Artur and Nagbe are battling in training and working hard in training. If they take a knock, they can sit now. They don't have to try to play through it. And the team's not going to suffer like they did late in the season this past year, where they weren't the same without Nagbe, without Artur. They made the right moves off the field, too. It was a really good offseason for Columbus after a really good season. Can they do it again? You never know until the ball rolls out. You know, I mean, does everybody have the same year they did last year? Probably not. Somebody who was really good last year has a bad year. Maybe somebody who was not so great has a good year. You never know. But on paper, they have to be the favorite. They have to be the favorite. I know they're not the sexy team here, and the odds makers went with LAFC as the favorite. Columbus is the favorite. There's just no question about it. No question about it. And like that number they put on Columbus to win MLS Cup is a pretty safe, conservative number to throw out there if you're looking for something to throw juice boxes at. That one shocked me that it was as high as it was, because defending champs get better in the offseason. That's usually a pretty good bet that they're going to win again. You know, it's pretty easy. We've got an interview coming up here in 5 minutes with Machop Chol, and we're going to play that for you. Had a chance to talk to him. We've got a couple other interviews coming as well this week, both here and on stoppage time. Hold on one second. I'll get the interview here in just a second. Ben Lundgaard's going to join us later this week. We've got a couple of interviews on stoppage time here in the middle of the week. Tomorrow, we've got Tyler Wolff and we've got Jackson Conway. Those will air before stoppage time tomorrow on the 929 The Game Facebook page, facebook.com/929 The Game. Thanks to Justin and everybody at Atlanta United for helping us arrange that yesterday. Yep. It's, you know, normally in preseason, you're able to have a media day. You know, you have the players come in, you kind of go through the car wash where all the outlets are there. They can talk to the players. They can get a bunch of preseason interviews set up. Well, right now you can't. You're doing it all through Zoom. You're doing it all in different ways. It's a challenge at the moment in the time of COVID. It's difficult to do all the things that you do to prepare the season. I mean, think about the things that you see on a game day, right? The videos on the Halo board. You got to film those, you know? Yeah. You got to set those up. You got to do like all of the internal preseason stuff with media that you have to do, all the headshots, all these different things. You got a bunch of new faces to do this with too. Mm. It's awkward. It's difficult. So that's all ramping up right now. It's been a weird time because, I mean, I can just speak for myself in this. Like, my head's been spinning the last 2 months because you start to get into like an internal clock, and you know it's getting close. Normally we'd be in the season by now. So like when back at the end of January, it's like, okay, we're getting ready for preseason. We're getting ready for preseason. All right, no, we're not. We don't even know when it's going to happen. That's not good. All right. All right, we'll try to slow down. Try to slow the internal clock down. No, we don't know when things are going to happen. Okay, it's going to be later. All right, cool. All right, we know it's going to start now. Okay, cool. And then when you get to preseason, it's like you start to think about these things with, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to meet some of the guys, we're going to meet, no, we can't do that right now. So it's like we're close, but it doesn't necessarily feel like we're close. But then you look at the calendar and you're getting close. April 6th is the first competitive game. That's not long from now.
No.
But it doesn't feel like it because we haven't been at an early training session. We haven't been at a preseason friendly yet. Like, it's this really weird thing where it feels like the season is going to jump up and smack us in the face because we're not ready for it because it hasn't felt like a normal preseason. The good thing from talking to some of the guys yesterday is that on their end, it has felt like a normal preseason. And it's been very intense. Intense. That is the buzzword of the preseason. Not a shock with Gabriel Heinze in charge. It's just weird. It's the weirdest build up to a year that I can ever think of. And I mean, why wouldn't it be, dealing with COVID and all the challenges of it? But it just feels like a really weird ramp up to the year on our end. It was good to find out that on the other side, the work that the players are putting in, it's not too different. You know, it's not that there are some things they're having to do. Yes, but it's not too different from a normal preseason.
And to your point, I think that from our end in trying to cover what's going on with all the teams that we cover, it's that detached element where normally, like I said, you're at practice, you're looking at things, you're seeing what's going on. But because we're detached and we're not in it right there and we can physically have this tangible idea of what's going on, you have to take everybody's word that it's going on because you can't be there. And then trying to figure out, okay, what can we glean, what can we learn, and all these kinds of things. And you have to get ready in your own lane and wait for all that other information to help fill in the gaps. And so it's interesting having to do it from the outside instead of blended, which is what we're normally used to doing. But in these interviews that you and Mike were a part of, and that you and I were a part of yesterday, it's good to see that practice is rolling on, and it is a new year for Atlanta United.
Speaking of interviews, let's throw it to one from a new homegrown this season. Machop Chol, coming in from Wake Forest, was part of the first year of the Atlanta United Academy. Machop's a player that I'm really, really rooting for because I remember meeting Machop. Man, I want to say he was 11 or 12, maybe even a little younger when I first met him. He played at the DeKalb YMCA. Great program. They do amazing work in Clarkston, bringing players through and developing good players. Lagos Kunga was a part of that group as well. Machop was always the quiet kid who would come to play pickup at the Clarkston Community Center when we would organize pickup days with soccer in the streets. Quiet, always hanging out in the back. You'd see him on the field, and you'd just see like the personality come out in him as a player. Now, playing at Wake Forest and all the work that he put in there, it's so cool to see him grown up and still growing, somehow still getting bigger.
Yeah.
He could be a real surprise, a real surprise. A little bit of a late bloomer, a little bit of a guy who's kind of grown into his body now. Machop Chol is going to be a fun one to watch. I think some with Atlanta United too, but also with Atlanta United. He did play against Tormenta. Here is our interview from yesterday with Machop Chol.
All right, now it's time to catch up with homegrown player for Atlanta United, Machop Chol, the pride of Tucker, Georgia. Machop, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you guys?
Doing well. All right. So how is it out there? I know that you can't really divulge a whole lot when it comes to what's going on with practice, but how is it at practice right now and actually heading toward a season?
He's been pretty good so far. The new coach, he's pretty intense, I would say. That would be a good adjective to describe him, but I think a lot of the guys, everyone's getting after it and everyone's working really hard right now. And yeah, I think the team is excited about the new year and a new chance to create some more history.
So you've had a few different coaches now in your time, as a youth player with the academy at Wake Forest and now Gabriel Heinze. What's different about Gabriel Heinze so far?
What's different about him? I would say he's definitely very, very passionate about the game, and he shows it a lot, especially in trainings. And he's even not afraid to get in like on some of the drills and show the players how things should be done or how he wants it. He's very direct, and I think I really appreciate that as a young player, with him telling us exactly what he wants and how he wants things done. So.
I was going to ask, what's it like to see your coach just kind of dive in right there in the middle of the drill and sit there and sit there and direct traffic? It's like, okay, I want this to go this way, this to go this way. I mean, it is almost like hands-on training with someone like Gabriel Heinze.
Yeah, it is basically. I'd say it's very fun. It's nice to see him out there, just to see him expressing himself in trainings like that. Just shows, like, to me, how much he really cares and like how well he wants the team to do.
So for you in your role on the field, what's different? What's being asked of you that maybe is something you haven't had to do as much of in the past?
Well, for me, I just take it day by day, and I'm just trying to learn and just soak up as much information like as I can from all of the other players, like especially the ones playing in my position. So I'm just trying to learn every day.
What are those conversations like in position group think? What's it like to share notes with those who are more experienced than you and just learn and have all of it rub off? What's it like getting that advice, and who are the ones that are, I guess, right now in the speed advice column for you?
I think my column definitely be Jurgen and Jake, and I also have little chats with Joseph at times and Blanco, and what they tell me is it's very important in the sense that, like, they want me to be more direct and, like, more intense with like my movements and things like that. So I think it's been very helpful, as well as they, like, demand a lot from me as well in terms of, like, being sharp on the ball, and yeah, in that sense. So.
How's your Spanish? How's the communication with both the coaching staff and with some of the Spanish speakers on the squad?
To be honest, my Spanish is not bad, actually. Like, I get along well with a lot of the Spanish guys, so I tell you, communication is not bad.
Nice.
When it comes to your game, I know that there are things that you know that you needed to work on coming into camp, and I think that one of those, if I remember correctly, was working with your left foot and getting more comfortable and confident with that, in addition to everything that you're learning from Gabriel Heinze and everyone else in your position group and all the players that you're around on a daily basis. What about you individually? How do you think you're progressing this early with what you think you need to work on?
I think there's still definitely a lot more time, but I think slow progress is better than no progress for sure. But yeah, it's been fun, and it's nice to see. Like, I think I've been growing more confidence every day. And I think the coach, he instills that confidence in us as well. So,
how was it to get on the field over the weekend and face Tormenta? What was the level like? Was it an eye opener about the pace or the intensity or anything?
For me, it wasn't really an eye opener. It was just a matter of, I think, for me, playing my role well, and then I think if I did what I had to do, then the team and everyone else did their role as well. I think the team succeeded for sure. So.
When it comes to adjustments off the field, I know we've been talking about what it's like here with training and all that kind of stuff, getting ready for the season, but all of the off the field adjustments, whether it's nutrition and sticking to a clock and all those off the field things, how is that, compared to how things were at Wake Forest and in the collegiate game? How is it for you now with Atlanta United with all of those off the field intangibles that have to be a part of this larger picture? How are you adjusting with that?
I think actually I've adjusted pretty well, especially considering my diet. I've changed my diet significantly, and then as well as my sleeping and recovery habits. With now, like, having training in the morning, I have more time in the afternoon to actually, like, recover and take care of myself, take care of my body, as compared to school when after trainings I have to rush to class or tutoring or something. It'd be a lot. It'd be really tough. So.
I want to look back at your career up to this point a little bit with you. Wake Forest was a great spot. It's become a great spot for a lot of guys from the Atlanta area. Got a lot of guys from the Atlanta United Academy. How was it for you to be one of the first to blaze that trail out of Atlanta up to Winston-Salem and have guys like Garrison Tubbs, like Takuma Suzuki follow you?
For me, it just pushes me to continue to do what I'm doing and continue to work hard because ultimately I want to see those guys where I am now. So it's motivation for me.
Then, obviously, at the same time, with your history in DeKalb County and how you grew up there, and being a local and seeing how the sport has grown here in the Atlanta area, and then off your way into the ACC, does it feel like it was yesterday that you were in DeKalb County getting adjusted and getting started to now, or does it feel like it's been that couple of years? Does it feel like it's been a snap of your fingers?
I think early on it was when things really became official. It felt like, yeah, I was just playing in Clarkston. And now I think back and just look at all the time that I was playing back in Clarkston, my journey to Wake Forest, and now to here, and it feels like it's been a long but beautiful progression. So.
Let's talk a little bit about your youth club, Decatur YMCA. I know you played for a few different coaches over there, but how important was that time when you were first starting to play at a competitive level? What are some of the things from that time that you hold on to today that help you on the field?
A lot of the things that I held on to were just to have fun on the field. And at Decatur YMCA, what was really important was family for us. It was just like a big family, so definitely held on to that. And I just really keep in contact with a lot of those same people today, so it's been special.
Machop Chol hanging out with us for another couple of minutes. Do you feel like a role model in that sense, or a trailblazer when it comes to your time at Decatur DeKalb Y and now being a part of Atlanta United? Do you feel like a role model and a trailblazer at points?
Yeah, I feel like a role model. Honestly, I just want to be someone that the kids can look up to and they can say, if he can do it, then I can do it as well. So.
It's such an important element of this, Machop, and it's something that I'm sure you're going to start to feel a little bit more as that next generation. Your group inspired the kids that are playing today. It might be in high school, might be playing at high level youth, but then that next generation is going to see you in the Atlanta United shirt, and it's got to be a special feeling for you when you do get a chance to go back and see some of the guys that you used to play with, but also maybe their little brothers, maybe their cousins who are looking up to you now.
Yeah, it's definitely a special feeling, especially going back home, because I know a lot of the young kids there, and when I go back and watch them play sometimes, it just brings a lot of joy in my heart. I just feel happy to see those kids playing with a lot of passion and just having fun out there. And then to be like one of their role models, it just inspires me. I just like to tell them to keep going, keep pushing. They can do it too. So it's just a blessing.
If you had the opportunity to have, this is the table of four question. If you had the chance to have lunch with three other guys in the soccer world, to pick their brain and just find out about the game itself and being a professional, who would be your table of four for a meal and why?
It have to be definitely Messi, because he's a legend in the game. Ronaldo, because I feel like he's a very talented player, but his work ethic is unmatched. And Neymar, because of his flair, and I feel like he's an artist of the game. Like he plays freely. He has fun on the field. So.
Okay, I'm going to finish with this one, Machop. John has the table of four question. I've got to go music. And I'm going to ask you, when you get ready for games right now, what is your playlist like? Is it up-tempo? Is it classic stuff? Is it kind of slow, mellow? What do you listen to get ready for a match?
Honestly, it depends on the day, what kind of mood I'm in. It can range from anything like Chris Brown to Coldplay to Ghana. So I have a wide variety in music taste. So
that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. I can relate to that.
Yeah, so I like my Latino music too. So
Thanks to Machop
All right, now it's time to
Chol,
catch up
as
with homegrown.
As I can hit the right buttons and get us back to where we need to be. Thanks to Machop Chol for taking out the time for us yesterday. He is a very humble guy. I've heard from some of the folks who run programs over in Clarkston, like he's had a chance to go back and visit and talk to the guys, and he has gone out of his way to try to motivate the next generation coming through. And it's something that he does take on and take it very, very seriously. I mean, having the opportunity that he had to go to Wake and now be a professional player, there are kids who will buy Atlanta United jerseys with Chol and his number on the back. That will be a thing in his community in Tucker and Clarkston, and that's huge. That's really huge.
When I asked him if he felt, like a role model or the trailblazer or something like that, it was really cool to hear his perspective and mentioning going back and having those younger players at Decatur, DeKalb, and all of that. And I just thought that it was really cool to hear that and understand, and he's always understood this, where he's come from and where he's going. And he's always understood both. And to hear that come out once again here in the interview, I just thought it was a really cool thing to hear from Machop, that he understands his place, he understands his importance and his position in it as he's with Atlanta United now.
I did not know that he was so confident with his Spanish. That's very cool.
Yep.
I would never have guessed that he would listen to Coldplay before matches.
No.
That was a surprise. I'm not surprised that he would mention in the way he did at the end Messi and Ronaldo and Neymar and the elements that they all bring to the table, because these are things that I see in him. He has flair in his game like a Neymar. He loves the 1v1. He always has. Such a good 1v1 player. But he has to add more, and that's the next step. The work ethic, that somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo has. That's something that every young player should be looking at. I mean, you can say what you want about Ronaldo as an individual. You can say what you want about him as a player. Can't really question his work ethic. I mean, the guy's a beast when it comes to what he does to prepare himself to play. The sacrifices he makes in his life. I mean, what were some of the stories about the parties that were not really parties that he would have, where it's just he takes everything very serious about what he eats, what he drinks. All of that is about being the maximum player he can be. And then just, anybody to pick the brain of somebody like Messi and to be able to do what Messi's done 13 years now with 20-plus goals in La Liga, it's insane. It's never happened. And to be able to talk to somebody like that and look up to it. I like what he picked out of the three.
Yeah.
That's what was very cool. It's going to be fun to watch him because he's such a unique player. I think I compared him when the signing happened to somebody like Breck Shea. And the height is what will grab your attention. He's not a typical winger in that, like kind of short, quick, fast. He's quick. He's got good speed. But he's tall. And now he's starting to fill out. So he's a tough one to get off the ball because of his size, because of his strength that he's added to his game now. And it hasn't taken away from what he has in the 1v1. The elements that, Machop and all young players are trying to add to their game is the work off the ball, the awareness, the mentality of what it takes to be a professional. That stuff away from the field. But on the field, it's the work off the ball. We know what he can do on the ball. It's what does he add to the team when he doesn't have it in the press, the runs off the ball. He's a player because of his size that if this team does what it wants to do in a lot of ways, where it's going to build up the attack on one side to finish on the opposite. You build up the attack down the right side with a Brooks Lennon, with a Ronald Hernandez, with a Jurgen Damm, and you create opportunities. Machop Chol's the perfect kind of player you want crashing on the back post. You like to have somebody with his height crashing on the back post looking for an opportunity to finish. And finishing was something that he needed to add more to his game when he went to Wake, and he has. he's a total wild card because he's such a unique kind of player. I can't wait to see him in action.
Gained 20 pounds, I think, in his time at Wake Forest, and
Easy.
That's part of filling out. It wasn't just 20 pounds and it sits there like he's got a boiler. I mean, it is 20 pounds. You're gaining the height. The muscle is there. The conditioning is there. And at times when you look at Machop, it looks like he's not getting out of second gear, but he's really floating and flying when he goes down the wing. And so it'll be a joy to see him cycle through the gears and see what that looks like for Atlanta United.
Floating is a good way to put it because it looks effortless at times, but he can cover so much ground with a stride that he's by you before you even know it. And I think when Breck was younger, he had that element to him as well. You didn't think he was fast. He was fast. He just, it didn't look like he had to work at being that fast. Machop's the same way. Question from Jason Nix, will he spend most of the year with the twos? In a normal year, I think he would. I think he'd bounce back and forth. This is a little bit different year on a number of fronts. We don't know what the back and forth is going to look like. Are they going to need to loan him to the twos for a longer period of time so he gets games with the twos? If that's the case, then yeah, I think early on he'll be mostly with the twos to get games. I also think because it's a new coaching staff, because it's a clean slate, that Machop comes in at the right time. I mean, there's no preconceived notions of this is the team that I have, this is who plays, this is who comes off the bench. Machop takes advantage of the opportunity in preseason. Again, he's unique. You don't have anybody like him on the roster. If he shows that he can play at the top level with the top talent, he will. Mm-hmm. Gabriel Heinze won't have a problem with that. If he shows he's ready, then he's ready. And you just don't have anything like him. I can't think of a player that Gabriel Heinze's had, like Machop Chol, with a combination of size, 1v1, speed, strength. I don't think he's ever had a player like that. So if he feels like he's ready, he could be a huge weapon off the bench. It just depends on if he's ready or not. And that's it's a jump. I mean, you're coming from college, you're coming in, you have a different level of expectation, you're working at a different pace, you're working with a different level of intensity. There's no way to know until we see it in preseason. There's no way to know until Gabriel Heinze and his staff sees it and then can assess it. My guess is he spends at least the first half of the season with the twos. He's the kind of player who I think will take advantage of that. He'll take advantage of the time that he has now with the first team training. If he's not quite ready yet, he won't take a step back because he didn't get the opportunity to stay with the first team. He'll go and put in the work to grow to be ready to compete for the first team minutes. And he could be a real surprise. He could absolutely be a shock.
And, you mentioned Machop, and there are a lot of other young guys who are going to be a part of training camp right now for Atlanta United. So don't be surprised if you see some of the younger guys as a part of the roster if they're getting what Gabriel Heinze is trying to teach. Don't be surprised if you see younger guys as a part of the mix for the Atlanta United roster out of the blocks if they're catching on to what he's doing.
Well, no, I mean they're part of the mix because they're there. It's how many of them are going to play with the first team because there's only so many. I mean, yes, there's a lot of guys. There's guys from the twos that are playing in preseason right now. There was a big question on the highlight video that came out. Abdoulaye Diop was one from Atlanta United too, who was in the video, so he played. But just looking at it, I mean, you've got up front Joseph Martinez back. You've got Kubo Torres, veteran. He was here last year. You know what Kubo is. Lisandro Lopez, 38, yes, but you know what he's done at Racing. You know what he can bring to the table. Jackson Conway, 19.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Tyler Wolff, who can play up top, but can also play out wide, can play centrally. Out wide, it's Mulraney, it's Dom, it's Machop, it's Barco. Could be Moreno, could be Brooks Lennon. You got a lot of different possibilities there. Centrally, we've talked about it all offseason. Josetu, Moreno, Ibarra, Sosa, Heinemann, Mo Adams when he's healthy. A lot of different possibilities. Tyler Wolff can drop into that in one of the more attack-minded roles. There's a lot of competition here. Efrain Morales, probably with the twos, because he has very limited experience as a professional, 221 minutes. He needs games. If he steps up and shows you something, well, then we're having a different conversation. George Campbell at 19. One solid year with Atlanta United 2, 47 minutes in MLS last year. Can he step up and show you something? Like, there's a lot of young guys. So just to say, don't be surprised if they're around, like, they're here. Like, that part's past. It's can they take advantage of the opportunity? Because it won't be handed to them.
Right.
They won't say, George Campbell, we like you, you're 19, you're going to play tomorrow. It's going to be, no, George Campbell, you put in the work in preseason. You put in the work in training this week. You've earned this time tomorrow, and you're going to play. And that's going to be the same for Campbell, for Morales, for Machop Chol, for Tyler Wolff, for Jackson Conway, the whole run. You know, any of the twos players who are up training or playing right now, they've got to earn it. The opportunity is there. There's no, it's coming, it's there, and you've got to take it. And we will see what happens with this, because the depth chart, yeah, I mean, you know, behind Joseph, I don't know if the first call is Lisandro Lopez. Probably. I don't know. It could be Jackson Conway, because he gives you something different. He's not a number 9 like Joseph or like Lisandro or like Kubo. He's a big number 9. He can play as a target. If you need that kind of player in a game, he can give you that. Okay. Is he ready? Eric Lopez, one we haven't even mentioned yet. I mean, does he play up top? Does he play out wide? Does he play centrally? Where does he fit in? You know, Mulroney, we did see that he was very active in creating and scoring in the 2.5 minutes of highlights that we saw from Tormenta.
The carefully edited highlight package.
Yeah, but he was active in it. So, you know, does that change what people thought about Jake Mulroney? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think it's a more of a clean slate in terms of the depth chart than it would be in a normal year, because it's a new coaching staff. Mm-hmm. I think it's who takes advantage of the opportunity, and there could be some shakeups along the way as it goes, because players will earn time based off performances and what they do in training and potentially what they do with the twos. So it's going to be a fun year, I think, with a lot of different faces who play. But the intensity, the work, especially off the ball, is going to be the key to this team's success.
Tafka asks if Machop is best as a normal right winger or inverted as a left. He pictured him more on the left.
He can play both. And I will always say it when these questions come up this season. Don't pencil somebody in as only a left or a right winger, ever, with Gabriel Heinze. He likes inverted wingers. He will play guys matched up against certain things that he wants. If he decides Machop is ready to start, and you're playing a team, let's say Miami, and let's say they're going to start Patrick Segrist as the left back, and you feel like he's weak in the 1v1s, they might move Machop over to the right side to play on that side to go 1v1 with him all day. It's not about he's a right winger, he's a left winger, that's it. That's not how Gabriel Heinze will see the game. It's not how Marcelo Bielsa sees the game. It's not how Pep Guardiola sees the game. It's not how managers of this positional play idea see the game. It's not rigid. Machop can play on either side. I think he could even play up top if you wanted to go down that road. That he could play either side. It just depends on the matchups, and it depends on the group around him.
All right. What else is on your mind as we go forward here on a Tuesday?
Questions from you guys, throw them in on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Throw them in on the Twitch pitch. We will get to them. I have not seen any updates from our friends in Barcelona to see if Joan Laporta has found the 70 million plus euros that he needs to be able to guarantee 15% of the budget to be able to take over at Barcelona with his new board. He's got a lot of work to do, and he's got about 24 plus hours to do it. We'll see if that gets done. Have not seen any other updates on some of the big news of the day. There is an update on the U.S. women's national team. They will play France on April 13th in Le Havre, which is a big game. This is a big 2-game set for the U.S. in Europe in April, where it's France on the 13th. It's Sweden on the 10th before that. 2 really good tests as they get ready for the Olympics. They need those tests because I don't think they were tested in the games before She Believes. she believes good, not a great performance. These are going to be good tests for Vlatko Andonovski's team. They're needed, and France will be looking for revenge. France will absolutely be looking for revenge in that game.
Yeah, you mentioned national team stuff really quickly from Derek Ray on the men's side. Werder Bremen is taking a stance on releasing players. This is straight from Derek's Twitter. Only where a direct flight is possible, no stopovers. Also, Josh Sargent can play against Jamaica in Austria, but Northern Ireland, listed as a German government Mutationsgebiet, is a no-go.
Yep. I mean, that's where you're at. That's the stuff that's going to come up. Get him the one game, and we'll see. We have not seen a roster yet from the U.S. for these games, probably because it's very complicated with these kinds of situations. It is Jamaica in Austria, and then they go to Belfast to play in Northern Ireland. I don't think you'll have the same group necessarily for both, because there will be other situations like this. I mean, Gio Reyna will probably factor into that as well. Maybe Matthew Hopp, if he was going to play, he would be in that same kind of boat. I don't think the German clubs will release players to go to Northern Ireland.
Right.
This will be a European-based roster, so will that affect any others? I don't know. Maybe that's why we haven't seen a roster yet. It's just because it's so challenging to pull it all together.
Yeah, trying to figure out, as Derek is saying, leagues and only letting players into certain countries, and you're having to juggle all of that for these two matches. So, completely understand why we haven't seen anything as you're trying to figure out what you can and can't do and make sure that you have these rosters in place for these two matches.
One update on one of our stories from today, the situation with Dinamo Zagreb. Zdravko Mamic, the brother of the manager who resigned, the brother who is getting the longer jail sentence. In Croatian media, he is bashing Modric, and he's bashing Lovren and saying that they also stole millions from Dinamo Zagreb with him, and that Modric still has those millions of euros in his account.
Wow.
That is from Croatian media right now. Good times. Manuel Neuer not in training today for Bayern, likely rested due to a slight cold per kicker in Germany. Backup Alexander Nubel will probably start tomorrow against Lazio. They should be fine. That shouldn't affect anything with that one. Everton's plans for their new stadium have hit a small setback as the government has asked for more time to review the proposals. Doesn't sound like anything too major, but just might slow things down a bit. Women's Champions League in Europe is a little complicated. PSG are into the quarterfinals. They were supposed to play Sparta Prague in the second leg. They won the first leg 5-0. PSG can't play the second leg because their players are in COVID isolation. Both sides have agreed with UEFA that PSG forfeit the game. So Sparta Prague wins the forfeited game 3-0, but they lose 5-3 overall on aggregate. And PSG and Lyon will meet in the quarterfinal, which will be a big one in the UEFA Women's Champions League.
Yeah. I was wondering how that was going to go with a 5-0 and then a 5-0, 3-0, 5-3. That'll work.
Yep.
There's your math.
One more on Miami that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Ryan Shawcross gave an interview to The Telegraph. It is behind a paywall. I do not have that login. I had to draw the line somewhere. Sorry, Telegraph. Yeah. But the quote that got the attention was, "I was heading for retirement until Miami move came out of the blue." That could be true. And, I mean, he's saying it, so it's true. But if you're the media staff at Miami... If you're Phil Neville, if you're David Beckham, you're probably not thrilled with that quote coming out that way.
No.
I get it, and there's probably a lot more context to it.
Right. Yeah.
He's come off of major injuries. He's 33. He wasn't factoring in at Stoke. He probably wasn't looking to move to another club in England. I understand what he's saying without seeing the rest of the context. It doesn't mean, I don't care. I don't really care. I'm just going for the money. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means I didn't think anything was going to happen with my career. I thought my career was done until Miami came in for me. And wow, now I'm excited. This is really cool. It can be a positive thing, but you take that quote out, It looks horrible.
Yes.
I don't know the rest of the context. Maybe it is horrible. But it looks really bad.
Yeah, it does.
If you're bringing him over and he's going to be a depth piece, if he's going to be a player who helps with the leadership on and off the field in the locker room, if he's somebody that Phil Neville feels like he can count on as a captain / assistant coach / player coach kind of thing, okay. Like, there are still, even if it is the most negative sense of this, is, yeah, I'm done, man. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm taking this because it's a cool opportunity, but yeah, I can't play anymore. Even if it's the most negative thing possible, there can still be benefit to Inter Miami from it, but I want to see what he's got left, if anything.
Absolutely.
I just don't know, and that makes you wonder about the mentality. I'm assuming there's more context to it. I would hope that there is. But, yeah, that makes you question it a little bit. Is he going to be ready to put in the necessary work?
Yeah. I'm trying to, let's see, over 2 substitute appearances back in December. Contract was canceled in February. Going all the way back, serious injury, July 27, 2019. Underwent surgery after he broke his fibula, ruled him out for 4 months. Returned to training in November 2019, making appearances for the U23 side. Made 1 appearance, lasted only 14 minutes before picking up a groin injury for the first team. Returned, then the next match he suffered a calf injury. Suspended. The season was suspended 2019-2020. He's able to return to training. Then starts in the first match on the restart in June, unable to complete the match, later ruled out for the remainder of the campaign. So you're talking injuries for Ryan Shawcross dating back to late July of 2019.
Yeah, I mean, he's had horrible injury luck, and maybe he's fit and ready to go. I could easily understand how he would think everything is done with that horrible injury luck. I mean, every time you start to get back, like, something happens.
Yeah.
So I get it. Let's see if there's anything more to it, because man, that looks bad. That headline looks really, really bad.
Uh-huh.
That headline did not make any friends in the front office at all.
No.
It just didn't. What else is on your mind this morning?
Let me go through one more on Twitter real quick, going back to Champions League.
All right.
Nathan Pugh came in this morning. He says, our discussion about PSG. He says, one thing about the Champions League for next season is that I haven't heard much conversation about who is going to be in each pot. There will be some real groups of death in quite the crapshoot of a tourney.
Could be. It's not one that I know all of the ins and outs with how everybody gets divided up, but just looking off the top of the head, like, you're going to have Juventus in a different situation coming out of Italy. You're going to have PSG potentially in a different situation coming out of France, where they might end up in a more difficult. It might make for a more difficult group and get a real group of death kind of situation. You could have some changes with other teams qualifying due to the coefficients and all of that. It could look really different.
2 things I had on my mind that we haven't had the chance to talk about this morning, and guess where they're both based?
English soccer down here. Go ahead, John.
First off, I don't know how many people saw it, but the scary injury from Rui Patricio yesterday in the Wolves match. And it was a 13-minute delay, and for those that were watching, there weren't a whole lot of close-ups on all the treatment that he was getting. It was a lot of cutaways and folks. It was Connor Cody backtracking and his knee making just a colliding with Rui Patricio's head. Thankfully, after the match, Wolves manager Nuno Espirito Santo said that Rui Patricio is going to be okay. Still going to be monitored closely, obviously, and keeping an eye on him through concussion protocols and stuff. But a scary moment yesterday for Wolves and their star keeper.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be okay, though.
According
to the manager, it's not as bad as it initially looked. Was it a club physio drove him home?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear, because you see a collision like that and you're worried, even beyond concussion, you're worried about, like, what happened with Raul Jimenez. You're worried about skull fracture kind of things. And luckily it seems like there's none of that to worry about. There more than likely will be a concussion here to deal with, and it'll just be a matter of time before he can get back. But I think the initial concern was a whole lot worse than that.
Yeah. And the other note that I had on my sheet is that we have talked a lot on this show and on soccer.
Hold that thought, because I wondered if this would come up. Ragamuffin says that injury is a clear result of ARs holding their flags. That was one of the immediate reactions from a lot of people.
Right.
Then the football has to make a decision. Soccer has to make a decision, because you can't have, and I know Abby's beat that drum for a long time, you can't have it both ways. You cannot have VAR involved in anything with an AR decision if they don't hold their flag. First off, you also have to understand that just because the AR puts their flag up, that doesn't stop the play. More often than not, it does, but it's the referee's whistle that stops the play. If the referee doesn't feel like it's a definite offside, they might not blow the whistle in time. So include that. But if you're going to have VAR look at anything related to an offside, they have to hold the flag, because it's the same thing as American football with the fumble. If you blow the whistle, the play's dead, and you can't have anything happen that you have to go back and clean up. It's dead. So if you blow the whistle, the flag goes up and the referee blows the whistle, and then you look back at it and you're like, oh, yeah, he was onside. As we saw in the Women's World Cup, 2 goals that would have been big-time goals in separating matches would have been ruled off. The AR put their flag up afterwards, and the AR was incorrect. Those goals would have been taken off the board. The decision has to be made. Do you want to get those calls right with VAR? And I know some people don't really want to. Some people don't like that the close calls are made by VAR. But it's either or. It's either or. I understand the concern here, and obviously you see it now with an injury. But injuries happen in the game no matter how the flag goes up or down or a referee blows the whistle. The referee can blow a whistle late and somebody can get clocked. The referee could have reacted late to this, might not have seen the flag go up, still could have happened. The flag going up does not change it. That's a fallacy. It tells the referee to blow the whistle, but the referee makes a decision. I'm okay, Jason Nix, I'm okay with that, but then how you define it can be a challenge. I think my argument is that when it's obvious, raise the flag. They're not raising them on obvious calls. I'm okay with that. How do you define obvious?
Yeah.
And if the AR thinks it's obvious and it's wrong, then what? You're stuck. It's just a dead ball. You got to do a drop ball and give it back to the team that had it in the attack, I guess. You can, these things can be worked out, but this is part of the discussion. And it's a very important part of the discussion. If we're going to worry about potential injuries and not allow VAR to factor in on offside, that's fine. But it will absolutely change situations. And then the complaints, I can guarantee you, mark it down. If they do that, the first time that an AR gets an offside call wrong, and you look at the replays and you're like, he's onside.
Yeah.
That ball's in the back of the net. We would have won the game. This is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what'll happen, because that's what's happening right now when something goes against the way you want. That will 100% happen. The game has to make a decision on what it wants. We've went round and round about offside and VAR. Like, if you want to say that offside has no place with VAR because we don't want lines drawn, we don't want it to be that close, okay, that's fine. Then put the flag up and blow the whistle like we used to. And then the ARs are going to be judged when they get it wrong, like they were in the past, because they did sometimes. It happens. It's a judgment call. The obvious thing, I'm with you, Jason Nix. I'm totally with you. I understand what you're saying. It's just how you kind of put that into language in the laws of the game when the AR puts the flag up, when they don't. I think the bigger question is, do you want VAR involved in offside decisions? That's the overriding question here. Because if you do, they have to hold the flag. If you don't, then you can put the flag up as normal and you just go back to how it was before. That's the number one issue. It's not about the potential injuries. That's a sidebar to it, because you can't have VAR involved in offside if you're going to put the flag up and play's going to get stopped that way. You can't. So it goes to the bigger question of, do you want offside part of VAR? That's where it is.
And the other story, and it's a story that we've been talking about a lot, whether it's on this show or on Soccer Over There.
Sorry. One more, because this is important.
Go for it.
Abby says if blatantly offside, call it. And Ragamuffin says, to be clear, I'm not arguing against holding the flag. Just this incident allows that result, shows a result to what that method leads. This was not blatant. This was a kind of close call. So I don't know how this would have been handled in any other way, possibly. It wasn't like an obvious offside that they allowed. It's kind of a bang-bang situation. So let's remember those things. Like, the bigger discussion is, do you want offside and VAR? If you do, this is the trade-off. If you don't, then you can go back to how it was before, and then ARs will make mistakes, and that's fine. If that's what we're good with, that's fine. Yeah, it's just that's what it comes down to, because you can't have both. You just can't. So if it is blatantly offsides, I'm fine with it. But those are the ones, too, that generally aren't relating or aren't creating these situations. It's the really tight ones that would have created these situations before anyway, because it's hard to get the play stopped fast enough when players are at full speed, and it's a very close call, and the AR has to make a quick decision, and there is going to be that little second of hesitation. So it's tough. It's just tough. These things have happened before in the game. They will happen again. It's just part of the nature of playing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, is anybody else dialing up?
Sorry, go ahead. There was another point that needed to get made.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, this is a topic that we've been talking about for, sadly, almost a couple of years.
No, it's people have been talking about different aspects of it, and people right now will talk about the flag going up, and that was the number one thing that was the response to this. That's not the issue, sadly. The issue is more about VAR and offside and how you want it involved, because that's what will drive what happens next.
Yes.
Just putting the flag up because of an offside, you can't do that if you're going to have VAR involved. You just can't. So you got to make that bigger decision first.
Yeah. No, I was saying that my second topic was one that we've been talking about for years. I was leading in.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Basically, for a couple of years, we've been talking about Wigan Athletic. And after apparently 11 tries to get a new owner, after the debacle of Stanley Choi and the shadow company that might have been his own or someone else's who might not have existed as a person and all that kind of a stuff, we may have an end.
Might
to
not
the
have
saga.
existed as a person? There was a fake person?
Yeah, that was kind of part of it. The possibility that this individual that was a partner of the old owner had no Google searches on this individual until all of this stuff with Wigan Athletic and the partnership had come to the fore back in a year or so ago. But now we may have an owner for Wigan after 11 tries, Abdul Rahman Al Jazmi, a Bahraini businessman. Looks like that he might be picking up the assets for £3 million, and it gives them a chance, if everything is completed and approved by the end of the month, to avoid being in the administration. And it looks like debtors might be paid 25 cents on the dollar to avoid a 15-point penalty. And that is big right now, considering that League One has 6 teams separated by 4 points at the bottom of the table, and 4 of those teams get relegated to League Two. So we might have a new owner for Wigan Athletic that can actually get them moving forward after the previous ownership debacles and administrations of the last year and a half.
Well, the biggest thing is this new owner would be able to bring them back in full alignment financially. Mm-hmm. Because there were questions as various folks who were fake or not fake emerged about how much they could actually put in. And there were some, initially it was, we're only trying to get everything paid off to where there won't be any penalties. Then it was like, we'll take anybody, and if you can't put you can't buy off all the debts, then if you can at least make the club function, then we'll take the penalty. Now it sounds like they're going to be able to avoid that penalty. And probably not, but maybe stay up?
Yeah, probably not, but maybe.
At least they'd have a chance. If they have a penalty, then forget it. It's all over.
Yeah, because you've got – and this is going to be one of the more intriguing run-ins that we will have seen in quite some time, just because of all of these clubs that are fighting not to go down to League Two. But, 6 teams separated by a total of 4 points. And Wigan is in that discussion.
We shall see. Couple of different things on the board on the MLS front as we wrap up. Franco Panizzo, who writes for SBI Soccer, there was a rumor of Inter Miami playing the Chilean national team in a friendly. A recent report out of Chile had stated that game was going to take place sometime in March. That is not the case that Panizzo is hearing, so don't expect to see Inter Miami playing Chile. Jacob Myers of the Columbus Dispatch asked Columbus GM Tim Bezpachenko, and this is starting to come up across all sports, about vaccinations for players and coaches. Jacob said that Bezpachenko said eligibility is being led by states, so all members of the team would be eligible by March 29th in Ohio, per the governor's new announcement. That's going to be different everywhere. Every state's going to be different. That's going to be another big talking point for Major League Baseball, for Major League Soccer, is players, coaches, staff getting vaccinated, and when they have access to get vaccinated, and do they get in any special way, and that's going to come up. It sounds like, and this is the first time I've actually heard an answer on this. I'm sure it's come up in baseball, but in Ohio anyway, I'm doing the math, the 29th, 3 weeks, depending on what vaccine, then they could be fully vaccinated by the time the season starts. Not for now, they wouldn't be for CONCACAF, and Columbus is playing in CONCACAF, but they would be by the start of the MLS season.
Yeah, and I'm looking up the attendance percentages right now that were put out by Governor DeWine. A 30% capacity at outdoor sports is right now what the attendance limit is, and that was posted about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed yet. So
yeah.
Depends on where you are. It seems like 10 to 30% is the going rate. I haven't seen an update here in Atlanta yet on what that number looks like. I know people are starting to talk to their ticket reps, and I mean, it's probably going to change at least 2 more times.
Yeah. Before
we get to April 24th and we get to the start of the season, because when things change and they can allow more folks, you're going to allow more folks. You're starting to hear a few openers for USL Championship. Haven't seen anything with Atlanta United 2 just yet. We'll keep you posted when that schedule comes out. It's going to be a fun year for all of us here in Atlanta, with all the excitement with a new manager, with all the excitement with so many new faces, and new faces with the twos, and all these young players breaking through, both from the academy, from players coming in, like the potential loan from River, from their reserves, the potential winger from Venezuela, guys that we're seeing on the fringes in the first team training camp. It's going to be a fun year across both fronts. Like the twos are going to be a must-watch this year.
Yep.
To know everything that's going on with the club and to be following that next generation, the twos are absolutely going to be a fun watch this year. Can't wait. Can't wait for it. DM Tim says it'll be July for all the vaccines in Georgia. I thought it was sooner than that. I thought it was April 1st that it would be all adults over 18. Now, I don't know if they get it April 1st, but I think they're eligible April 1st.
Yeah, I think you're eligible April 1st.
Okay,
yeah,
DM Tim was joking. Thank you. I was making sure I didn't miss something, Tim. I was like, wait, what? It's hard to keep up because it changes all the freaking time. We're all figuring it out. But I think that figuring it out is getting a lot better now.
Yeah.
And I think it will look a whole lot more normal on opening day than we thought it was going to even a month ago. Definitely on January 1st. And then by the summer, who knows? We'll see. It is really close. I keep having to tell myself it's really close. It doesn't feel like it yet because we're not like doing things yet, but it feels weird, but it's really close. So it's exciting. We've got more interviews coming up across our spectrum of things this week. Tomorrow, ahead of stoppage time, it'll go out as 2 separate interviews on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. Tyler Wolf, Jackson Conway. We'll talk about those on stoppage time with Mike tomorrow. He'll join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock on SDH. And then Thursday on SDH, Ben Longard will have a chance to join us, and we'll get to talk to him about his transition coming up from the twos. He's in a different situation now. He came to Atlanta, I think, because he saw the chance for progression, and he's done it. He's put in the work, and he's done it. Now he's on an MLS deal with Atlanta United. It still will probably play some with the twos, but it's an opportunity for him. This year feels like opportunity. It feels like there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of different people. That multifunctional.
Yes, multifunctional was the other word I was going to bring in.
Multifunctional, opportunity, intensity. Those are the buzzwords right now. That's your buzzword bingo card for this year.
Multifunctional, opportunity, and intensity.
Yep.
I feel like the Kurt Angle T-shirt now.
Totally. Mazzano wants us to go 4 more minutes. We've done 3-hour shows by accident. We're done.
No, that was with the ads included, though.
No, I think we did one time, actually, where we went over. I think it was official that we went over.
Okay.
We actually started just a little bit later this morning. Not quite full Turner time.
We were on Turner time, I think.
Not quite. We weren't quite at 9:05. We were more like 9:03. Still a weird thing with the time change. It's still getting me. It's getting me more than it usually does.
Is Gwen still getting you?
No, this time was okay with that. It was just getting everything done in the morning. It was just a little different. So, all right, people are begging. We didn't get into the On This Day. We can finish with that.
That's true.
How about that?
Okay. There you go.
We will get the soccer birthdays up in just a second. But on the music front, 2 very different Billboard number ones to talk about, separated by about 30 years. 1996. This was the record for a long, long time. I won many trivia contests knowing this one. 16 consecutive weeks at number 1. I don't know if it still holds this record, but Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men, One Sweet Day, 1996, this week was the last week it was at number 1. It had been number 1 for 4 months. That was unheard of. If it's not still the record holder, it's right there with it. I think Old Town Road got close, but I don't know if it actually passed it. Going back to 1968, Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, hit number 1. It was the first ever posthumous number 1 hit in Billboard history. He died in a plane crash December 10th, 1967, and it was on March 16th, 1968, that Dock of the Bay, one of the all-time greatest songs, went to number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Otis Redding for me, a lot of folks, when it came to my musical taste, like in high school and stuff, I would go down Sam and Dave and Otis Redding and all of the old blues and things like that. And folks said that because of that, I had an old soul when I was growing up. I always just kind of gravitated to that stuff.
I would go through phases with it. One of the first DJ gigs I got was a happy hour slot at a bar called the Apollo in Athens, and it was all like Motown and funk into the 70s. And it was a blast. Like, I mean, I knew it fairly well. I learned a lot doing it and had a lot of fun doing it. And I love it when I would DJ events or DJ at a bar or pub or, you know, a wedding when I was DJing regularly. And to go into a Motown set is just instant smiles everywhere. Like, everybody starts singing along. Everybody has fun with it. I love that old classic stuff.
Yeah.
Dock of the Bay was one that, I mean, as I was really getting into music, and, you know, a lot of my musical knowledge came filtered through, like, bands that I fell in love with at the time, like R.E.M., Pearl Jam, Nirvana, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The first time I heard Dock of the Bay was actually Pearl Jam covering it. And is a really good live cover on a bootleg. Surprisingly, really, really good. And I think the version I heard, the guy who played guitar on the recording guested with him on it, which was very cool. So, yeah, there's your Dock of the Bay, and One Sweet Day, I really don't have any fascinating things about it. That song was just everywhere in 1996 and 1995. 4 months at number one is bonkers. Soccer birthdays, a couple of big ones at the top. Theo Walcott, born on this day in 1989. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, born on this day in 1997. Agustin Marchesín, born on this day in 1985. A big one in terms of the jacket I am wearing and the shirt I have back here. Carlos Bilardo was born on this day in 1939. Won the World Cup as the manager for Argentina in 1986. Took them to the final in 1990. Legend at Estudiantes as a manager and as a player. He is the one tagged with the anti-football side of things in Argentina, but he really wasn't as anti as you would think he was. He got the best out of Diego Maradona in his career with Argentina. He got more out of Maradona than Menotti did. Menotti was the attacking one. Bilardo was the defensive one. They were both probably closer to the middle than they get credit for, but Bilardo is one of two men to win a World Cup with Argentina as manager. So he is being celebrated today as he should.
Well, and sides of the spectrum, that you're really closer to the other guy than you really are at times. It is not a true straight line from one end to the other. I think that the further away you suppose you think you are, the closer you are really toward the middle.
Usually
life is not a line.
Yeah, usually that's how it goes. It's funny, like, I think we were supposed to stop at 3 hours because we had a little stutter here. I think we're back, but I'm going to take that as a sign that we should call it a day.
Yep.
That'll end for us. Thanks for listening on the podcast. Thanks for watching on Twitch. Thanks for being part of it, as always. We will be back tomorrow. We'll have Mike Conti with us, and we'll have more interviews over at 929 The Game Facebook page, facebook.com/929thegame, and we'll see you then. You guys have a good rest of the day. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.